Order.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. We have case number 1020, McDermott versus Gilmore.
Thank you. This case is a relatively simple one. Ms. McDermott, you want your money back that you paid for the use of an Airbnb that the defendant owns. It's a home. You're going to tell me why you want your money back. You didn't use it and spend the night. I gather that what you were doing was feting your daughter for her 17th birthday. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you find Mr. Gilmore's house to rent?
Through the website Verbo. It's similar to an Airbnb website where they list their properties and you can filter through them to figure out what you want.
Did you get a contract from the defendant?
I did.
May I see it, please?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Is this the only contract that you signed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so this is what happened. You were planning just an evening stay. How many friends were you having?
4, I want to say.
And you arrived after the girls arrived.
That is correct.
And that was from Saturday to Sunday or Friday to Saturday?
It was going to be Friday through Sunday was the booking. And earlier in the booking process, when I requested to book his property, you have to kind of describe what you want to do there. And
I don't care about anything other than what is in this contract. This contract now encompasses everything because it's written, it has every element that exists between the two of you.
Yes, ma'am.
And cannot be changed in any way other than in writing and signed by both parties, because that's what it is when you have a contract. Now, I assume, Mr. Gilmore, that you're going to tell me that this lady, who is your neighbor,
Yes.
is going to tell me what happened
Yes.
on that Friday, which was the 30th. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Rochelle Weber.
Miss Weber, you're a next-door neighbor to Mr. Gilmore.
Yes.
Do you recall October the 30th of last year?
Yes.
Tell me about what time in the day you noticed that there were people entering Mr. Gilmore's house. He wasn't at home.
Around 5:30.
Tell me what you observed.
It looked like a bunch of young girls that were going into the front door of his house.
Other than the fact that they were 5 young girls, there wasn't anything untoward about their conduct.
No. They were just
5 young girls.
giggling and doing what girls do when, on their phones and that type of thing. Yeah.
So what did you do?
So about the same time that
I don't want you to editorialize at all. I just want you to tell me what you did.
Well, I looked out my window, and I usually leave my windows open but I shut my window because there was going to be people that were staying there, and I didn't want to have to deal with the noise and stuff like that. So
whatever. So far, they weren't making any noise. They were 5 young girls going into the house at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yes.
So what did you do?
So like I said, I shut my window and everything. At that same time, when I saw them, Mr. Gallimore sent me a text saying that somebody entered his house without an adult. Did I see adults by chance? Did I see anybody coming into the house?
Okay. So what he did was text you first. You didn't call him.
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So he sent me a text and said, I have people that are going to be staying in the house, and it's just young girls. There's no adult there.
Okay.
Would you please go over there, because I can't have underage kids staying in my property, it's...
Whatever. Is that what he said to you?
Yes.
Don't make things up. Is that what he said? Would you please go over there? I can't have underage people staying on my property.
Yes, I don't want to have underage people staying in my property, and see if there's an adult there. That's what he wanted to know, if there was an adult that had actually, shown up. So
go ahead.
Okay.
So you went over there.
So I went over there, and I knocked on the door, and I knocked again, and I knew people had entered into the house, so I didn't know if they were ignoring me or whatever. And then the door was unlocked, and I opened up the door, and I said, hello. And then all these girls came down from upstairs, because it's a 2-story house. Mm-hmm. They all came down from upstairs.
And
that's when I said, is your mom here, or the person who's supposed to be on the contract staying here? And one of the young girls said, no, she's not. And I said, well, then you can't be in the house right now, because you're supposed to be with the person who had signed the contract and everything to be in the house with them and stuff.
Is that what you told him?
Yes.
Is that what he told you to do?
Yes.
Is that what you told her to do?
Yes.
Okay. And they left.
Well, they had some things that they had put into the garage and everything, so they gathered up their things and everything.
So the girls drove. Did they drive in?
They drove,
in
yes.
2 cars?
There was just one car I saw behind the house.
Okay.
And they put their stuff in the car and stuff like that. And I just said, oh, you guys might want to move your car, because their car was kind of parked over a line that you're not supposed to park over, or you can get a parking ticket or get towed in the area, because our area is pretty picky about how you park and everything. And so I was just mentioning to that, and, you know, because I didn't think they were going to leave, because they could have hung out until their person came and stuff like that. And
Hung out where?
They could have just sat in their car. They could have hung out on the patio in front of the house or whatever. I didn't tell them they had to leave the property. I just said they couldn't be in the house, because that's what Mr. Gallimore said, they couldn't be in the house. And so I had just made comment about, oh, you guys might want to move your car. And at that point, one of the girls says, oh, well, we're probably going to go to Walmart anyways. So I assumed that they were leaving.
I don't care what you assumed.
Well.
And is that all that you know?
Yes.
Okay. And they left.
I didn't hang out there to watch their car drive away. I went back to my house.
They
because
left.
I did what I was asked to do, and I was done. I wasn't going to sit there and babysit them or anything. So, yeah.
You left.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what happened.
I turned around the corner and she started like walking up the stairs, and I was like, hello, like, how can I help you? And she was like, you guys can't be here.
Try telling me what you're going to tell me without using the word like.
Melissa McDermott claims Terry Gallimore's neighbor wrongfully removed Melissa's 17-year-old daughter and her friends from his rental property.
Mr. Gilmore, I want you to take a look at this contract. And I want you to show me, because I may be missing it, where in that contract it gives you the authority, once you receive the money and they've leased the property, I may have missed it, for anybody to eject them from the property.
It's not in the contract.
If it's not in the contract, unless you have another contract.
Well, there's something that she has to sign before she can even get the contract stating that.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at it.
Okay.
Before you got the contract, was there another document that you had to sign?
No, on the website, you request the property, and it gives details of the property, and there's nothing that I don't recall signing anything for that.
Well, he says he has something that's signed from you.
Well, it's not signed. They have to.
Just no.
They have to check off on this before they can even get a lease agreement saying that they agree to these terms. If they don't read this and agree to the terms, they don't get a contract.
I don't know. Just a second. I don't know that.
Okay.
That may be true, but I don't know that. So if you want to lease to somebody, and I assume you've been doing this for a while, and you have a contract, and you specifically want to incorporate something specifically in that contract that requires somebody over the age of 25, over the age of 40, over the age of 26 to be there, it has to be in your contract. And the only way to modify your contract is something in writing. What you're trying to tell me is, in order for her to even look at your property, she has to agree to terms. I'm assuming this. And one of the terms is that there has to be an adult there who's over the age of 25 or 26. Yes. And then she presses a button that says agreed.
Yes.
And then you send her a lease, right?
Yep.
Now, is everything that is contained in that overall application for a lease contained in your lease?
No.
Does it contain an amount?
No.
So you put in the amount. Does it contain a date?
Yes.
So that application contains a date?
The date that they agreed to it.
Right. And that's incorporated in your lease?
Yes.
Does it contain who will be present?
No.
No. You have to adopt it and put it in your lease. Does it contain terms that you will not create noise, and any noise after 10 p.m. you will be ejected and forfeit your deposit? Does it contain that?
No.
And you put that in your lease?
Yes.
So there are some things that you put in your lease and some things that you didn't put in your lease?
Correct.
But in the only signed agreement that you have, Mr. Gallimore, you did not indicate that someone had to be over 25 or over 26 or over 24 in order to ask for an application. I'm just telling you that for future reference. Now, nothing that you heard suggested any untoward behavior when you went to the house.
No.
You didn't hear screaming, loud music, the girls were quiet, they were upstairs. You came in, you actually opened the door to a premises that you had no right to go into because it had been a leased premises. I mean, whether the door was open, you didn't mean the door was open, you meant the door was unlocked.
Yes.
Okay. But you had to open the door in order to go in.
Yeah.
And when you opened the door, you had to say hello.
Yes.
You didn't have to scream hello because there was loud music blaring, nothing. The girls were upstairs.
Yes.
Putting their things away. And when you said you can't be in the house, were those your words?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me your first name.
Samantha.
Samantha. Do you remember Miss Weber?
I do.
Do you remember what happened when she came into the house?
I do.
Tell me what happened.
We all unpacked our stuff from our car and put it in the garage, and then we went upstairs and were just checking out the rooms and deciding where we wanted to go eat for dinner. And none of us heard the door open. All we just heard was someone say hello, like she said. And I turned around the corner and she started like walking up the stairs, and I was like, hello, like, how can I help you? And she was like, you guys can't be here.
Try telling me what you're going to tell me without using the word like.
Okay. She said, you guys can't be here. She said we were disrupting her dinner, that we were disrespectful for being there.
No, I was not having dinner.
No, just a second. Don't interrupt her.
Okay.
I asked her if I would be able to call my mom and sort it out. She said there was no point. There was no one over the age of 25 there. There was no reason we could not be there, that he had a very strict policy about that. She like followed us around the house, asked us where the keys were, told us that we like needed to leave, that I couldn't park my car there, that I needed to be moved. And then I said, okay, we're leaving. And she was like, I'll wait. And like watched us as we grabbed all of our stuff and put it back in my car, and before I could say another word, she just closed the garage on us. And then when I realized that I had left some stuff in there, like a birthday sash that I had left, I went around and tried to go back because the door was unlocked, and at that point it was locked and we could not get back in.
And where did you go, Samantha?
To a parking lot, like really about probably 100, 200 feet away from the Airbnb, just the nearest parking lot we could find to figure out
what to do.
What to do, yeah.
Okay, and this was about 5:30?
I would say around that point, yeah.
And that's what you indicated, about 5:30?
Yes. I did not tell them to leave,
Not,
though.
I didn't ask you anything else.
Okay.
I just said it was about 5:30.
Yes.
And that was about the same time that you received a phone call from Mr. Gallimore.
It was a text message.
Or a text message,
Yes.
about 5:30.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how far, Miss McDermott, is where you are to where the house was?
I'd say probably 50 miles, 45 to 50 miles.
So at that hour, at that time, it probably took you an hour and 15 minutes to get there?
But when I got the call from her frantic when they were told to leave.
It was a quarter to 6.
I had to take care of a few things, and then I got in the car and was probably there in about an hour and 15 minutes.
And she called you at work?
I had just gotten home from work.
When you say you had just gotten home from work, so from your house to where it was?
That's correct.
It was about an hour and a half.
And work and my house are same area.
Okay. Just for my own information, what did you go home for?
I still had to get some stuff together, pack, and then I was going to possibly have my fiance drive me down there and drop me off, so we only had the one car. But at the time I got her call, he couldn't leave then, so I just took off down there.
At the time you got the call, he couldn't leave where?
Originally, he was going to drive me down there. We were considering him driving me down there and dropping me off. But when I got the call from her...
Oh, so that you were going to wait for him to drop you off?
Correct.
Okay. And he was delayed at work?
Correct.
What time did your fiancé get home from work?
I don't know exactly what time, but he was arriving about the time that I just decided to leave and head down once I found out they were in the parking lot.
No. Then he would have driven you because you would have been very upset. So he wasn't home when you left?
What I recall is he was just getting home and I was leaving.
That doesn't sound right to me.
Because I do, now that I recall, I was on the phone with Terry after I got her call when my fiance walked in the front door.
Any reason why he didn't accompany you?
I just went. I was ready to go at that point.
Not so sure. In any event, you had called the defendant to let the defendant know that the girls were coming that day.
That is correct. I left him a text message and I said that if traffic went well, should arrive like in about an hour. He said he would unlock the door. And then once they got there, my specific text message is the girls arrived. I'm still at work and we'll be heading down after. I have a copy of that.
I'd like to see it.
There's multiple here. And then that's when I did not hear from him again. He stopped responding. And about 10 minutes later, I got the call from Samantha saying the neighbor had came in.
Samantha, but did there come a time that you went back to sit on the patio of the house?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And these were texts back and forth?
Yes. She texts and says, we will be arriving in about an hour if traffic goes well.
No. You want your deposit back?
Yes.
Which was how much?
It was the actual cost of the rental, which was $11.80.
Which she already got back, by the way.
Did you get your money back?
So the bank...
That's an either yes or a no.
Melissa McDermott is accusing Terry Gallimore of ruining her daughter's 17th birthday party by having Melissa's daughter removed from his property.
You wrote to her and said this was after your neighbor had already told him to get out of the house and locked the house. The girls went to a parking lot, but they were frightened to be there. It was getting late. And you texted her and you said, my neighbor let me know that the girls are sitting on the private patio, and that's okay. Please let me know when you arrive at the property. Thanks. Now, you're responding to him, and you're not there yet.
Correct.
So I would like to know how you're texting him when you're driving in the car.
I just did.
You texted him. You want me to know. I didn't like the fact that they were forced to sit in a parking lot alone in unfamiliar territory, so I told them to go and sit there. And then you wrote, I'm 10 minutes out. The girls are now on their cars. I assume you meant in their cars. Correct. Because they were freezing. And then you write back, you are more than welcome to stay at the house. The neighbor does not have keys to the house.
That was hours later after
Just a
we
second.
had...
I'm sorry, Terry. I will be having to find a hotel. I don't want to have to worry about having to lock the door at all times to prevent a stranger from entering. The keys are on the counter and the door is locked. Again, if you do not understand why we have chosen not to stay and do not want a refund of my money, I won't have a choice but to seek reimbursement in court. Again, I'm sorry about your mother and wish her the best. What happened with your mother?
She was in the hospital.
Okay. So you must have had a conversation intervening here because you were annoyed at him, but yet you must have said something about your mother, and it was...
We had several conversations on the phone, and I told her, I go, you're more than welcome to stay at the house. When you get there, I'll get you in the house, but you need to be there. I can't let 5 girls stay at the house by themselves.
By the way, when you were speaking to her on the phone...
She was at home.
She had gotten home already?
Yes.
With the girls?
No, she was at her house. The girls were still in Newport.
Oh, is that right?
That was the first conversation we had right after I got the frantic call from my daughter saying she was told to leave by the neighbor. I got on the phone with Terry and said, what just happened? Why didn't you just call me?
Just a second. What time was it that you called?
We had several, any time between 6:30 and almost 8.
I can tell you the exact time.
Yeah, give me the exact time that you were still talking to him from your house.
I got the call from Samantha at 5:48. I tried calling him at 5:55, 5:59, 6:01 is when I actually got on the phone with him.
Okay, when were you still at home when your fiance?
6:01 p.m.
When your fiance was home?
Correct. That's when
that was 6 o'clock.
Yes,
that was 6 o'clock. And what time did you arrive at the house?
I told him at 7.
No. What time did you arrive?
I was 10 minutes out at 7:38, so 7:48.
And you decided not to stay?
We decided not to stay at his property, correct?
Absolutely right. And you want your deposit back, which was how much?
It wasn't the deposit. He never cashed that check. It was the actual cost of the rental, which was $11.80.
So she already got back, by the way. Verbo gave her money back in January, so I'm not even sure why we're here.
Did you get your money back?
So the bank...
That's an either yes or a no. Did you get your money back?
It was reversed through the bank dispute, but they said that Terry did not reimburse it. So if we were to get him to reimburse it, we were going to give that back to Verbo.
Did you get your money back?
Yes.
So then what are you doing here?
Well, we had filed this before we found that out.
Yeah. Oh, just a second.
No. And when I called Verbo to find out why the money was reversed, it said it because we had originally disputed it with the bank, and they did a long investigation.
Don't tell me what they said. The refund on booking, which I would have given you, actually, I actually think that you stepped way over the line in going into the property and telling the girls to leave. That's his responsibility, not yours.
I knew he was dealing with his mom, so I said I would help him out, so.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
It was nervy and bossy, and you see 5 17-year-old girls. They're very quiet-spoken. They weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't disruptive. They weren't making noise. And at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night, you don't tell them to go outside. You can't be here and lock the door. That's ridiculous. Sit down. $1,180 is what you got back. You're suing this man for $4,352.
That is correct.
For what?
We also included the cost of the hotel. We had to find...
That's your problem. He told you that you could stay there. You decided not to stay there. I don't know why you're here.
We didn't
I don't
feel
know why
safe
you're
staying.
wasting my time. So, lesson is, anything that you want the person that rents this house to do, to have, to spend, to occupy, anything that you consider an integral part of the lease has to be in that document.
Yeah, that's my bad. I thought it was good because they had to check it off before they even got that far.
What I'm telling you is anything that's important to you, the number of people, how old they are, anything has to be in there. In any event, you got your money back. You want the cost of your hotel. According to you, you were going to eat in, and you were forced to go out for meals. You're charging him for meals. Miss McDermott, you're smarter than that. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
Court's adjourned.
Well, I was furious. I was furious because there was nothing that, he had never said that no one could be on the property unless they were 25.
I had talked to Melissa before, saying that she has to be there when they come in. I don't allow people to check in unless the primary renter is there.
I let him know that they were there. He could have called me like an adult and worked it out with me.
Younger kids coming in, parents saying that they're going to be there, parents never show up, and then the kids are there for the weekend or for the 4 or 5 days, and they trash the house.
I think, it kind of sucks. I feel like, that's what we had planned for the weekend, and it kind of got ruined, and I think the money should have came out of his pocket, honestly.
I think it's right. I mean, she got her money back in January. She filed the case in June, so how did she not know? And it is my money. They took it out of my bank account.
Like, the first shock of it was pretty scary, but just after that, it was kind of just annoying.
So I'm going to definitely alter the contract to put that in there.
I'll just know better from this point forward when booking to make sure that we get it all together before we go.
Okay, so I've never rented an Airbnb. Have you?
I've tried, but I know that that age requirement of 25 is listed on a lot of properties for owners to ensure that an adult is present at all times. So each homeowner can list house rules.
Okay.
That before you can
Get a lease.
the property,
Got
you
it.
have to agree to those terms.
Got it.
But to me, it sounded odd that he did not include those terms in the actual lease, because as far as I know, you don't sign off on the house rules, you just agree to them. There's no signed...
There's agree, don't agree, like you get when you
It's
get...
either agree or you
terms
pick a new property. The homeowner is assuming that you've read those rules, and before you proceed to the next step to receive a lease, they assume that you've read those rules and are going to abide by them.
Yeah, but it makes sense to have those rules, either all of them or some of them, incorporated into a written lease.
Absolutely.
Since you don't really sign off on those house rules.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Good morning, Judge. We have case 1033 Martinez Sanchez Martin versus Alvarez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your last name is Sanchez?
My fiance.
And you're his fiancé?
Yeah.
Why don't you have a seat for a moment? Because this case is really about you, Mr. Martinez. Your fiancé was a witness to these events and may have been, according to you, traumatized by them, but this really involves the two of you. That be a fair statement?
Correct.
Let me see if I understand. You have in your home a music studio.
Yes.
Is it in the basement or on the main level?
It's in my son's room.
How old is he?
He's 4.
And that's where you do,
That's where I record.
that's where you record. You had a friend.
Correct.
You and your friend were doing music together.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And at some point, you became acquainted because you were acquainted with
artist.
his friend. And you decided that you and your friend would like to use his son's room that doubles as a recording studio to work with him and record some music.
Correct.
So you started to work together, and then you and your friend had a falling out.
Correct.
Prior to you having a falling out, according to your answer and counterclaim, you purchased a microphone.
That's correct.
To use in recording. You acknowledged that he purchased a microphone that he brought to your son's room/playroom. After you and your friend decided, after this falling out, and you were aware that there was a falling out, you stopped going to the studio.
That's, Your Honor, if I may, I had been to the studio about 2-3 times. It's just, I work a lot, I work 12-hour shifts.
No, listen to me. Don't give me a lot of editorializing. If anything that I said is wrong, tell me. Don't enhance it. I don't need enhancing right now. I'm trying to set the stage of what this case is about.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So you and your friend split up, and you decided that you weren't going back to the studio anymore, or you decided that you would continue working with his friend. Because I feel peculiar about it, let's call your friend Steve.
Correct.
Now I feel more comfortable. So you continued to work with Steve.
Yes.
At some point, you wanted your microphone back.
That's correct.
And you communicated that fact to Mr. Martinez.
That is correct.
Mr. Martinez said he sort of felt uncomfortable because he's still working with Steve. So he says he gave the microphone to Steve to give back to you.
Yes, Your Honor, that's incorrect.
I'm just telling you what's in here.
Okay.
According to you, Mr. Alvarez, this is your claim, trespassed on your property in order to get his microphone back, and in the process assaulted you seriously in front of your fiancée, which is why she was standing up next to you, and your 4-year-old son.
Yes.
Traumatizing them.
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez has a cross complaint. He says he did, in fact, come to your house because you stopped returning his calls to retrieve his expensive microphone, and you, in fact, assaulted him, and he's got a counterclaim for that assault. That's what this case is about.
That's correct.
All right?
That is correct.
So we have a claim of assault, and also you want your microphone back. And you have a claim of trespass. Did you get your microphone back, by the way?
I received my mic, but not my other piece of equipment.
I don't care about other piece of equipment. From whom did you get the microphone?
Well, the person that you claim that I'm not friends with anymore, Steve. I'm still
Steve,
friends with Steve.
That's it. You got it back from Steve.
Yes.
Did you get it back from Steve before or after this altercation between the two of you?
After the altercation.
Okay, so after the altercation, how much after the altercation? A day,
It was a week. It was a week.
A week. So now we're just talking about assault. So on what day, sir, do you allege this assault took place?
May 15th, 2021.
What time of the day?
1 p.m.
At your home?
At my home.
Fiancé and son were there?
Yes.
I'm listening.
Okay, so they ended, Steve and Brandon ended, the May 15th?
Get to May 15th.
May 15th,
I've
2021.
just laid out the case.
1 p.m.
Just a second. Was it clear to you?
Pretty clear.
Was it clear to you?
Very clear.
Got it? I just want to know because you're my ears to the tens of millions of people who are going to watch us. All I want is what happened. You had the microphone. You gave it to Steve. You shouldn't have given it to Steve. Should have given it directly back to him. It was a mistake. You cut him off.
Yes.
You didn't return his calls. Now he comes to your house May 15th, 1 p.m. Pick it up from there.
May 15th at 1 p.m. Me and my fiance are in the yard. We're hanging out. We noticed Brandon pulling up to the gate right off the bat saying, "Yo, Rebel, what's my mic at?"
Pulled up to what gate? Is there a...
It's a side gate that leads to our home. We live on a side home.
Okay.
So
Pulled up to the gate. Was anybody with him?
He had a driver with him.
Somebody was driving the car?
Yeah,
Okay.
So he immediately lets himself in.
You mean open the gate?
Yeah, he opens the gate, immediately lets himself in, immediately start asking for his equipment. I respond by telling him, "I don't have your stuff. Steve has your stuff. You need to leave because, no one let you in." As I'm walking towards him, I'm telling him,
As you're walking towards him?
As I'm walking towards him, he's continuing to refuse to leave.
No. tell me, as you're walking towards him, what he said to you and what you said to him.
Telling him, get out of here. He's saying, no, give me my stuff. At that point, at that point. I'm trying to shove him out.
Okay, so we're going frame by frame.
Yes.
He's in your yard. He's let himself in. He wants his stuff. You say, get out of here.
Yes.
You start shoving him out.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
How did you start shoving him out?
I just put one hand on him, telling him, hey, man, get out of here.
Okay.
You need to leave.
Well, first you picked up 2 hands. Did you pick up 2 hands? That's
No,
what you picked up first.
It was one hand.
One hand, you put your hands on him and say, hey, man, get out of here.
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then he's refusing to leave. He's still refusing to leave.
Just a second. What happened next?
I try to keep shoving him again.
Okay, just a second. So you're shoving him now with 1 hand or 2?
I believe with 2 hands.
Okay, so now you're shoving him back towards the fence.
Towards the fence.
Telling him to leave.
Yes.
What's next?
At that point, he gets very aggressive.
No, just a second. Just tell me what happened. You're shoving him now with 2 hands back towards the fence and probably exchanging words. He wants his stuff, get out of here. Probably lots of bad language. You're shoving him out. What happened next?
He punches me in my face.
Okay, so he punched you, and then what happened?
At that point, I'm stunned. I'm like, what's that for? What's that for? And then he's still saying, you have my mic, give me my mic. So at that point, my wife grabs a brick because she feels in danger.
Just I don't care what she feels. Your wife picks up a brick.
Yes.
And what does she do when she picks up the brick?
She's verbally telling him, get out of here.
No, she picks up a brick and she's saying to him, get out of here.
Get out of here. She's pointing at him, Steve.
Pointing at him, get out of here. And how far from the gate was he?
When he was backing up.
Yes.
So when he started backing up, when he noticed my wife picked up the brick, he was still at the gate. He was still like in between the gate. So
he's still...
Yeah, he's still at the gate.
Just a second. So when you were pushing him, was he at the gate?
No, he was in my property.
How many feet was he in the yard?
10 feet inside the yard.
10 feet. So he was backing up as you were pushing him, because now you say he's at the gate when your wife picks up the brick. That's what you just said.
Yeah, I pushed him initially so he can leave, but then he got aggressive, punched me.
Well, I want to know where.
Yeah.
Where was he when he punched you?
In my yard, 10 feet in.
No, 10 feet in.
Yeah.
But at some point, he got to the gate.
Yeah.
Because you said your wife picked up a brick, and at that point, he was just inside the gate.
Yeah.
Not 10 feet in, so he had backed up. And I want to know if he backed up because of your shoving him or if he walked backwards towards the gate.
He's walking back towards the gate.
Is that because of momentum, because you're shoving him, or is he walking himself back? He's going to have a whole different story. But
no, he's...
but I'm paying careful attention to your story.
Yes, he starts backing up because he notices my wife pick up a brick. I'm still telling him, you need to leave, as he's backing up towards the gate. I'm not shoving him anymore at this point. I'm still telling him, still giving him a chance to leave.
Okay, so now he's at the gate, and you and your wife are 10 feet away, because he's already punched you, according to you. He's already punched you, and he's backing up, not because you're shoving him, but because what you said was he saw your wife, which he saw your wife pick up the brick, so he was walking himself because you stopped shoving him. That's what you just told me. See why Whitney is so important?
Yeah.
He said when he noticed my wife picked up the brick, he was still at the gate. He was still in between the gate.
Yes.
So now he's between the gate.
Yes.
Now tell me what happens next. Now he's at the gate.
He's at the gate. I'm still pointing to leave. I'm
Just
still
a second.
giving him a chance.
Just a second. How far were you from him when you were pointing to him?
We're damn near next to each other.
But you were 10 feet away when he started to back up.
No, he was 10 feet. We were 10 feet
10 feet
into my yard. Into my yard.
Just a second. You're 10 feet into your yard.
Yes.
And he starts to back up because he sees your wife pick up a brick because he's punched you. He, according to you, is backed up. So now he's 10 feet in. He moves back the 10 feet because he's in between the gate. So you're following him, telling him to leave.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? And you're 2 feet away.
Yeah, he's still in my yard. He's still in the driveway. And so, yes, we followed him because
moving backwards
but
to get away from your wife and the brick. And he was 10 feet away from you.
Yeah.
So why were you following him?
He was refusing to leave.
He was walking backwards to the gate. He was 10 feet away. That's what you said.
He was only walking backwards when he noticed my wife.
That's just a second. That's exactly correct. Why were you close to him? Why didn't you just stay back there with your fiance?
Because we were in fear that he was going to come back in.
Oh, that's ridiculous. All right. So now I'm getting your picture. So what happened next? So now you're this close to him again because you walked forward as he's walking backward, and
he's saying, "Come at me, bro." He's telling me when we're at the gate. He's telling me, "Come at me, bro. Come at me."
And what's next?
So I start defending myself.
So let me understand this.
Yes.
He's punched you. You've shoved him. One hand once and then shoved him with both hands. He's backing up. After your fiance picks up a brick, you follow him to the gate because he's backing up. And he says to you, "Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro."
Mm-hmm.
So then you punched him.
No, I didn't punch him at all.
Well, you said, "I'm defending myself." What does that mean?
It just means that I have my hands up ready for him to, if he strikes at me, I'm ready to defend myself.
Well, no, you didn't use the words, "I'm ready to defend myself." You said, "I defended myself."
Yeah, I defended myself.
That's what you said. So, is that what he said? Yeah. So, my question to you is, it's not easy. What do you mean you defended yourself? There's no question he was injured. There's no question you were injured. So I want to know what you mean when you say, "I defended myself." I'm going to give him the same grilling, not to worry. Well, why don't you just go back in and close the gate?
Because he's refusing to leave.
He was leaving.
No, leaving is when you have your back turned and you're walking towards your car.
Would I turn my back towards somebody with a brick?
No, Your Honor.
Danny Martinez and his fiancée Alexandra Sanchez Mar claim Brandon Alvarez assaulted Danny after he trespassed on their property. Brandon is countersuing for sound equipment and claims he was the one assaulted.
You're at the gate. We're going at this frame by frame.
Yeah, he says, "Come at me."
Come at me.
Yeah.
And you do.
Yeah.
Because you're walking towards him.
Yeah.
And what happens when you get to him? Is not an answer.
I noticed my wife right next to me with the brick. So she's still with me in the driveway. We're leading towards the sidewalk because he's just backing up.
Just a second. He's backing up. Now he's on the sidewalk.
He's leading towards the sidewalk.
Well, you're in the driveway.
Yes.
He's in the driveway.
He's still in the driveway.
The driveway is beyond the gate, or it's still inside the gate?
It's beyond the gate.
So he backed out beyond the gate?
Yes.
So now he's beyond the gate that he opened to come into your yard. Mm-hmm. Is not an answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you and fiance with the brick are following him, and he's now in the driveway.
Yes.
And you're in the driveway.
Yes.
Well, why don't you just go back in and close the gate?
Because he's refusing to leave.
Just a second. He was leaving.
No, leaving is when you have your back turned and you're walking towards your car.
Would I turn my back towards somebody with a brick?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Let me hear about the fight. So far, you shoved him, he punched you, and she picked up a dangerous instrument. So that's so far.
Yes.
Okay. What happened next?
So we lead towards the end of the driveway. I put my hands on my wife, letting her know that it's okay.
Fiance.
My fiance. I put my hands on her, letting her know that it's okay. He's already at the sidewalk at this point. But instead, he strikes me again at my face. And at this point, I'm like, okay, this guy, he's not leaving. So I grab the brick from my wife and I toss it at him. I miss. At this point, he tackles me towards my car and I'm trying to hold him down. We ended up on the ground and he, somehow overpowers me and slams my face to the cement. And
okay.
when we're getting up, he knees me in my collarbone.
Your version.
Your Honor, I don't have no reason to lie.
Just a second.
I'm content.
Everybody has a reason to lie. Whether you lie or not is something that I unfortunately are going to have to determine. May 15th, 2021, 1 o'clock. Who was driving?
My cousin was driving.
Had you tried to call Mr. Martinez before?
I don't have his number. I can't get a hold of him that way. My only form of communication with him was through Instagram, and he blocked me and he read my message.
Okay, on what date did he block you?
May 5th, the same day that I messaged him.
Do you have that message?
That's correct, I do.
I'd like to see it. Okay, I'm looking for this date. That's Wednesday?
May 5th, 2021.
May 5th? Okay, and this happened 10 days later.
Correct.
And you said, what's up, G? I'll stop by your house tomorrow around 2 to pick up my mic, so you know.
Correct.
Did you get a response from him?
No response at all.
And you didn't go over the next day?
No, I passed by and his card wasn't there. That's how I know that he wasn't home. So I didn't bother to get off or anything.
Okay. And did you at some point block him from communicating with you?
At some point I did.
Just a second. At what point? On what day?
May 8th.
And tell me why you blocked him on May 8th.
I was texting and calling Steve. Steve had let me know that he was gonna reach out to him. I had let Steve know, keep this out, keep me out of this.
Well, you hadn't had a fight with him.
No.
So why wouldn't you just give him back his mic? What were you dealing with Steve for?
I was dealing with Steve because I asked him for some advice. Steve was already letting me know that.
But this is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Clearly, Steve knew that it was his mic.
Yes.
Because he gave it back to him at some point. So he knew that it was his mic. You knew that it was his mic.
Yes.
So why did you, and you hadn't had an argument with him,
Yeah.
Mr. Martinez. So I'm not figuring out why you ask Steve for advice instead of just on May 5th. Say, you know what, we're not going to be home on May 5th. I'll leave your mic on the porch. I'll leave it in the backyard. There's a piece missing here from me.
Yes, because Steve was telling me to ignore him. He was telling me...
Oh, well, but just a second. Steve was telling you to ignore him.
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Yes.
As to why you would listen to that.
Because I trusted Steve. I trusted him, and that's where I made a mistake.
Well, then it's your mistake.
Yeah.
Because I'm not hearing anything that would suggest that what he was asking for was unreasonable.
Yeah.
He left a piece of valuable equipment at your house. You knew it belonged to him. He said, I'll come by and pick it up. Nothing bad about it. You don't respond to him. You block him from your Instagram. I mean, the smart thing to do, Mr. Alvarez, is to take him to court. That's the smart thing to do. To go over to his house is not smart thing to do because, he's acted like a dummy by blocking you from Instagram.
Your Honor, I didn't think there was any, there was, like I said, me and him, I've met his wife before, I met his children. There was never any...
Any bad...
There's never any bad. I didn't think anything of it. I was just trying to pick up my equipment. It was my equipment. He knew it was my equipment. He even suggested for me to buy that equipment.
Just a second. I get it. So now I want you to tell me what happened, because I'm not understanding this whole business here. By the way, a brick is a dangerous instrument. And if you followed him out into a public street with a dangerous instrument, that's a no-no. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not a dangerous instrument if you build a building with it, but if you threaten somebody or if you throw it at them, it's a dangerous instrument. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now I want you to tell me your version of what. So you went there. He had blocked you from Instagram so that you know that for some ungodly reason, he's blocked you, he's cut you off. You never had any problem with him before, so you go to his house with a driver.
Correct.
1 o'clock in the afternoon, unannounced.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you go into the backyard.
Well, no, first I'm walking, right? Like he said, I'm walking to the side gate. And his parents live separately. They live on one side of the house, and he lives on the other side of the house, right? You have to get in through the gate to knock, but as I'm walking, I smell weed because they were both smoking outside. And his son wasn't outside like he says, so it's just a little strange to me.
Okay, so you smelled marijuana?
Yes, I smell marijuana.
From the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, from his front of the yard. It's his front of the yard.
Okay, keep going.
Like I said, I'm walking to the front gate. I told him, hey, what's up? Where's my mic at? You blocked me on Instagram. What's that all about? And I'm stepping inside. I'm not 10 feet inside.
Just don't.
Okay.
You're stepping inside the gate.
I'm stepping inside, and as soon as I step into his gate, still open, he approached me with one hand. He grabbed my neck. He doesn't shove me. He grabbed my neck. And I have, if I may, I have evidence here where it shows that he clearly grabbed my neck, not shoving me. I mean, you're not going to have any marks from shoving.
Can I see what he's got?
There's a timestamp on there as well.
Who took this photograph?
I did myself.
Go ahead.
As I said, he grabbed my neck, and so, like anyone would, I reacted and I punched him so he would let go of me. I was not 10 feet inside. My back was towards the gate, and as I reacted and I punched him.
What was being said?
He was telling me, get the out of here. Excuse my language. He said, get the out of here. I don't have your equipment. And I was just telling him, you have my equipment. I haven't gotten my equipment back. And at this point, him and his wife both pick up a brick. Not just his wife. He picks it up as well. And that's why he said I was walking with my back toward the street. I didn't want to turn around. I was in fear that I was going to get hit with a brick by both of them. And so as I'm walking out the gate, I close the gate, and he still opens the gate and he follows me. And this is when he approaches me and he tries to hit me with a brick. He swings on me with a brick. And I reacted and I hit him again. This time he falls to the floor, picks up the brick again, and I'm still walking like he says. I'm already towards the sidewalk. I'm trying to leave, but he throws it at me, and he comes and he tackles me to the floor. And that's how you see in the pictures I have the abrasions and the marks from my side. And like he said, he was trying to hold me down on the floor, and I picked him up and I threw him off of me. I didn't knee him. I'm still trying to get away from him because
Did the person who was in the car get out of the car?
No, they never got out at any point.
You have a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, Your Honor, over the video.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, I have multiple angles. So this is the angle where he...
Just a second, I couldn't see it.
Okay.
Could we see the video, please? Steve was supposed to reach out to him.
So if he reached out to him...
I don't answer questions. I'm telling you, it's irrelevant. Unless you have some evidence.
Yes, I have evidence.
No.
That I wanted to.
Listen.
Danny Martinez and his fiancée Alexandra Sanchez Mar are accusing Brandon Alvarez of trespassing and assault.
Okay, could we see the video, please?
It's you right there.
Well, I see you both picked up bricks.
No, I don't have a brick.
Yeah.
I just dropped my phone on the ground. I'm pointing at him right now.
The brick. He had the brick in his right hand.
Right here, you'll see I don't have a brick. He's saying, come at me. I don't have a brick in my hand. There's no brick in my hand. It's just my wife. He strikes at me here. This is when I got fed up.
Why are you... What? I don't understand, sir. Why you followed him out into the street?
Because he's saying, come at me. He's saying that he's saying he's not going to leave.
He's leaving.
No, he's not. So when you on the side of the gate, you can clearly see me telling him to leave. I'm still pointing to leave. He swipes my hand down. He's knocking my hand down saying no. I would not come at somebody who's already going to leave. I'm only going to come at somebody that trespassed.
Don't tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you tell me that you think that you acted appropriately, you may have taken bad advice from Steve, and that may have been your problem. And maybe smoking a little weed and taking bad advice from Steve all got it together. But this wasn't a little shove that you gave him. And he wasn't somebody who had done anything to you, except that you took some bad advice from Steve.
Your Honor, he trespassed. He was told to leave multiple times by my wife as well.
You don't have a wife. All you had to do was give him back his equipment.
No,
you don't. I'm not excusing coming to your house unannounced. What I'm saying is that you were high, you were taking bad advice, you took his property and gave it to a third person. He came to get his property, which he probably shouldn't have done unannounced because he knew that there would be trouble. But you don't see any complicity on your part.
Yes, I understand that I messed up on
On a lot of things.
On
a lot of things.
message.
On a lot of things. You
But
put your hands.
I have proof here that
I'd like to see
that
whatever.
was going to reach out to him.
That who?
Steve.
Let me explain something to you. The fact that Steve was going to reach out to him is not relevant to this case. He wouldn't have come to your house if Steve had reached out to him before the 15th of May.
Correct.
He wouldn't have. That's your fault. He reached out to you on May 5th.
From May 5th to May 15th, in my head, I thought Steve
I
already
don't
reached out.
care what's going on in your head, sir. Clearly, when he came to your house, at that point, you knew that he hadn't gotten his stuff back. And instead of saying to him, listen, I don't have it. I gave it to Steve. I'm sorry. I gave it to Steve. You shoved him out of your yard. He doesn't think that there's anything wrong in being in your yard, sir. It's not as if you had had bad words with him before. The only word you had with him was on the 5th of May when he said, I'm coming to pick up my mic, and you weren't home. And then you blocked him from Instagram. You had not had a bad word with him. He was in your house, as far as I can tell, with Steve, playing music, with a mic that he brought to your house and some of your equipment. And whether Steve was supposed to reach out to him, that is totally irrelevant. It didn't happen.
And that's
if that's the proof that you have,
yes.
Well, that's not relevant to this case, that Steve was supposed to reach out to him. That's not relevant.
So if he reached out to me
I don't answer questions. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Unless you have some evidence.
Yes, I have evidence that I wanted to.
Listen.
Yeah.
Unless you have evidence that prior to May 15th, that Steve returned his mic to him.
I have.
No. Unless you have evidence that Steve returned his mic to him.
I have evidence that Steve picked up the microphone.
From your house?
From my house.
I know that. I said that 20 minutes ago. He and Steve had a falling out. You remained friendly with Steve. You knew that he had a microphone that he brought to your house. He messaged you for the microphone on May 5th. Instead of responding to him like a person, you call Steve for advice, this genius. You call him for advice. He says, just ignore him. And you, Mr. Brilliant, decided to just ignore him and block him from Instagram. That's what happened. Am I reading this right?
Yeah.
Am I reading it right?
Yeah.
Your case is dismissed. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. There was an altercation here. It was a nasty fight. One person got more injured than the other, perhaps. You didn't spend any time in a hospital, did you, sir?
I had spent time in my house, sick time.
I don't care if you spent time in your house. My question was a simple one. Did you spend any time in a hospital?
No.
Did you, Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
When?
If I may have evidence for here.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so you said you had a visit with the doctor over the internet, right?
Correct, over the phone.
Over the phone. And you said you had a backache because of a confrontation that you had, and it hurt, and he told you to take pain pills of muscle pain. Mm-hmm. That was it?
That was it.
Right. Well, you shouldn't have gone to his house. You had a fight. You both behaved badly. You're lucky it wasn't worse.
Of course.
Of course. I had a fight because of your stupidity. Not his. Yours. Yours.
How can you blame me
Just
for
a
his
second.
action?
I don't answer questions. I'm making a statement.
Yeah.
You took advice from Steve that turned out to be wrong. As I said before, your case is dismissed. So is your counterclaim. You got your mic back?
I got my mic. I'm missing another piece that she still has.
Okay. You got your mic back?
Correct.
Okay. We're done here. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
This man came to my home thinking he had every right to think that I stole his stuff.
I do feel he was trying to steal my microphone. He didn't respond to me.
Due to me trusting someone, this is what happens.
I didn't want to get hit with a brick. I mean, no one wants to get hit with a brick.
No more bringing business to family locations at all.
It's just time to part ways.
Watching that video was very interesting because you can see the defendant clearly trying to back away while both plaintiffs, or one of the plaintiffs, has a dangerous instrument. And had they struck him with that, that could have really led to some bad charges, some felony charges for assault with a dangerous instrument.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you're allowed to defend yourself and your property with the degree of force that is being used
Against you.
you. Clearly, I mean, he knew why he was there. I didn't see the defendant, when he first came in, being aggressive.
No.
I actually saw in the video the plaintiff.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy enters.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2016, Pajaro versus Stratman.
Mr. Perari, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for a brief period of time, owes you money for a plane ticket and for her unauthorized use of your credit card.
That's correct.
I don't know what the defense is to this, except that I think her defense is that you were just stupid and she took advantage of you. No. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually trying to figure it out. But you met the defendant, according to you, on an online dating app and started a conversation with her on what date?
So we met in March 2020 on a dating app for LGBTQ people. We started dating in March 2020. 4 months later, she moved in with me, which I know is not smart, but...
July?
Yes, in July 2020.
And where had she been living?
She had been living in Florida.
And where do you live?
I live in Seattle, Washington.
Did you send her money for a plane ticket? How did she get to you?
She had money herself at that time to cover the cost of moving.
So she moved and it was her own funds that she used to move?
Yeah, the swindling hadn't started yet.
You must have had some substantial What is this? What is this look? I don't know what this look is.
Oh, it's just the verbiage.
Okay, well, let me go back and let me start with you, okay? Because there's only one theatrical person here in this room, and that's me. Do you understand?
I do.
Yes. I get paid the big bucks to be theatrical. Okay, so Miss Stratman, you lived in Miami. He lived in Seattle, Washington. You decided to move in with him. What kind of work were you doing in Seattle?
I was a video editor, but when COVID happened, everyone kind of lost their jobs.
And what arrangements did you make with him when you were going to move in with him?
He told me that if I gave up my life in Florida, I had a very lovely apartment, lots of friends.
You had a lovely apartment, you had
I
nice
gave up
friends,
everything to
but
go
no
and
job.
move to Seattle.
Okay, so he said, move to Seattle and I'll take care of you.
Yes.
That's what you say in here.
Yes.
And that was in July of 2020.
Yes.
Is that about what you said to her?
No. The reason she moved in, again, it was 4 months after we started dating, which normally...
Had you seen her during those 4 months?
We had Zoom.
That's either yes or no?
No.
No, you had no physical contact with her?
No.
Okay.
But because we were in lockdown and we were both pretty isolated, it made sense. Her lease was ending and things moved really fast between us, so we decided to try it together. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any discussion about what she was going to do once she got to Seattle?
Yeah, so as she stated, she was a freelance video editor, and she said she was going to potentially have more work in Seattle and continue to try and find gigs for that or find other employment, drive for Uber Eats.
But she came to you and she wasn't working?
She wasn't working, no.
Okay. And the relationship with her ended in what month?
It ended in February 2021.
So it was a relatively short live-in period, maybe 6, 7 months.
Right, because of her.
Did she ever work when she was with you?
Not that I
Just a second, I'm going to ask her. Did you ever have full-time gainful employment during the time that you lived with the plaintiff?
I did not. I was not supposed to.
I didn't ask you. I don't ask to be editorialized. I asked you, did you ever work full-time?
No.
Did you ever work part-time?
No.
Okay. Then there came a time, according to what I read in both of your papers, that he purchased a plane ticket for you to go back to Miami. That would be a yes.
That is correct. You're right.
And what month was that?
That was in February of 2021.
And tell me, in your own words, what you told him as to why you wanted to go to Miami, because he wasn't going with you.
He was not going with me.
Tell me what you told him as to why you needed to go to Miami.
I told him that I needed to visit my sister.
And does your sister live in Miami?
Yes.
Had you been there to visit her before?
I had, yeah.
While you were living with him?
No. I didn't travel.
So this was the first time you wanted to go and visit your sister?
Yes.
Okay, was there any specific reason that you gave him as to why you wanted to go visit your sister?
She was sick and I wanted to be there.
But did you tell him what she was sick with?
Yeah, it was COVID.
Does she live alone?
At the time, yes.
You know, it's not going to be easy. It's going to get harder. Now, the plaintiff seems like a relatively intelligent human being. Hands off hips. If somebody I lived with say, I want to go and see, unless it was a young child, maybe in a school or something that lived alone in an attic dormer, I want to go see my sister who's sick with COVID, and you don't have COVID, and this is 2021, I would say, well, why would you do that and put yourself at risk and then come back and put me at risk? Didn't you have that conversation?
We didn't, Your Honor, no. It just didn't come up.
I want to go take care of my sister because she has COVID. What about isolation? Didn't you ever hear about that?
I did hear about that. I spent a lot
Well,
of
what do you
time
think that means?
Isolation means not traveling.
No, isolation means you're not supposed to be around other people if you test positive for COVID. If you're sick, stay at home. You don't travel cross country to be with somebody who's sick. But it doesn't make any difference, actually, because you should have picked up on that or whatever, because you didn't really want this ticket, according to what I read, Miss Strackman, to go and visit your sick sister. You needed this ticket because you had started to become involved with a boyfriend who was in jail in Florida.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so that's a yes, which you didn't tell him. So you took the money from him for, let's just start with the ticket, under false pretenses.
I did, but I...
Just a second. That's all. I did. Not a but. Not a little. I did take the money from him under false pretenses when you went to Florida. You said you needed it for one thing, and in fact, you didn't. That's under false pretenses. How much was the ticket?
The ticket was for $427.40.
Okay. And when you went to Florida, Miss Strackman, and you stayed in a hotel, motel? What did you stay in?
I stayed in a hotel.
And whose charge account did you use for the hotel?
Yenny had given me a credit card.
That's not what I asked you. That's a name. Whose credit card did you use when you stayed at the hotel?
The plaintiff, Yenny's.
Mm-hmm. And that was by pre-arrangement with him that you were going to stay in a hotel rather than with your sister?
No, but I had the credit card for...
Now, that's not what I mean. Let's go back. You had the credit card. I'm assuming for the purpose of this question that what you say, and I don't know if it's true, but assuming for this question that what you say in your answer is accurate, that he gave you a credit card to use for your necessaries and expenses for emergencies.
Yes.
Yes. You would agree that going to visit secretly another boyfriend in Miami is not a necessity.
You would agree that Yenny cheating on me was not a necessity.
No. But did you use his credit card?
I did, and I believe that human love and kindness.
Okay, just a second. That's it. Do I look like I need help from you? If you had given him, Miss Strackman, a credit card, I want you to try to take everything else from out of your mind. If you had given him your credit card and said, I'm giving this to you because I said to you I would take care of you when we lived together if you didn't have a job. Let's say I believe that. I'm not so sure, but let's say I believe that. You would agree that going to see another boyfriend across the country was not a necessity for him, or for me, or for Whitney,
for you, no,
or for Sarah.
For me, I'm a woman with needs. I need dopamine, I need love, I need connection, and I wasn't getting that from Yenny. So it was a necessity that I went to go visit another man. Yenny had other girls as well on the side.
But you didn't, just a second, Miss Strackman, you didn't pay for the other girls. You didn't pay for his other girls.
I paid emotionally.
Oh, you said, what an idiot. What led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat?
Because that cat had become severely bonded to me. Yenny was neglecting both of us, both of the women in his life. You chose him.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story. You always make a big deal, according to you, about your birthday. It's a very important day of the year.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the way Sarah feels, actually. Me, I sort of like to forget birthdays now. I like it to run right by that day as undercovered as possible.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Yenny and Gigi.
Yenny Pajaro claims his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, owes for the cost of a plane ticket, credit card charges, and stealing his cat. Gigi says they were all necessary expenses for her.
Now, you should feel so lucky that you got off so cheap.
I think you should assume everything that comes out of her mouth.
No.
Yeah. Because if I had, I wouldn't be here.
I get who I'm dealing with,
Yes.
sir. $427 for the flight ticket. How much was the credit card?
The credit card. Also, there's an incident with my cat as well, which
Just a second.
I'll address later.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's your least strong suit, but it sort of tells me again who I'm dealing with. Okay. How much did she use on the credit card in Miami?
Okay.
So only in Miami.
Right. In Miami, she spent $1,000 on...
Now, just a second. Is that a sheet from your credit card company?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Easier.
Would you like me to add the $427 for the flight ticket?
Yeah. Let's separate the two for me now. Okay. Giving you start, just show me where the bills are.
So those are two separate credit card statements because she used it in 2 separate months. One of those is when she initially started using it, which was...
I don't care when she initially started. You know, let's understand.
Yeah.
She got your credit card.
Yes.
I only want to see the charges from Miami.
Okay, it's the one that says bail bonds, the bigger charge, which was...
Just circle.
Okay.
How much?
That was for $1,000, but overall it was...
No, $1,000. We're going to do it this way. $1,000 bail bonds.
Yes.
Okay, next.
And then she spent $262.50 at a hotel for both of them.
$250 for a hotel.
And then she spent $105 on a fancy dinner for her and her lover.
And her what?
And her lover.
Okay, 150?
150 is not fancy. That's the kind of person you're dealing with.
150. I don't think there's a question before you, madam. 10, 4, $1,400 there. Is that close?
Including the 1,000?
Including the 1,000, but then not including the 425. So it would be 1,827.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's get to the final issue. So that takes care of your plane ticket and the credit card while she was in Miami. Now let's talk about the cat. Ms. Strackman, you moved in with the plaintiff July of 20.
Yes.
And when you moved in with the plaintiff, did he have a cat?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And what was that cat's name?
That cat's name was Momo.
And you lived with him a total of approximately 6 months.
Yes, Your Honor. And during that time, the cat...
No, I didn't ask you any questions. There's no question before you. There's no question before you. I have dates. You moved in, you lived with him for 6 months. When you moved in, the cat was there. And if you recall, in what month and year had you gotten the cat?
I got Momo right before she moved in with me as an emotional support animal, which is legally protected.
When you say right before she moved in with you, give me the month.
It was
June. And where did you get the cat from?
June 2020. I adopted her from a shelter.
So you didn't have the cat long?
No.
When she moved in?
No.
And then the two of you had the cat?
Yes.
Okay,
but
great.
The cat was
and then when she, just a second, then when she left in February of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are now in August of 2022, and you recently filed this case with regard to your cat.
Right. I didn't know where she was.
Just a second.
Disappeared.
I don't care.
Okay.
You recently filed this case with regard to the cat. Did you make a police report when she left with the cat?
I don't.
The answer is either yes or no.
I don't like involving the police, so no. I didn't want to ruin her life.
Oh, well. I want to tell you something. I have a small 4-pound dog at home. I love that creature more than anything in the world, except my grandchildren, my husband, and my children. Hope there are enough life rafts for everybody, including the dog.
I did try to hire a private investigator in Florida, but I didn't know where she was.
Okay. You didn't report it to the police, and I do have a problem with that. Now, Ms. Strackman, you knew when you moved into him he had this cat that he had adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me what led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat?
Because that cat had become severely bonded to me. Yenny was neglecting both of us, both of the women in his life he chose to neglect.
Because I was working and
No, just a second. Don't.
Sorry, I paid for everything.
And so the cat.
So he was neglecting the cat and you, so you decided maybe half a neglect, you could be one whole person.
Exactly. Me and her just getting out of here and gonna go start a new life together. I spent day and night with that cat. That cat was extremely bonded to me. She would be devastated without me.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story.
It's not. No, it's absolutely devastating. I am completely torn up about it. Unfortunately, my boyfriend's dog was not accustomed to cats and mistook her for a toy, and she did not survive that.
What kind of a dog does your boyfriend have?
We don't know the breed. I've never done the genetic testing.
You have a picture of the dog?
I do not. I didn't bring any evidence. I was hoping you just used
brought your smile. Okay.
She's not with her boyfriend.
She said, I didn't ask you a question. There's no question before you.
Love transcends bars, Annie.
Okay. 1827, $1,000 for taking his cat, and because you're a fool. 7, 2, 8, 2827. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
First of all, I'm glad, and I think justice was served. I'm not for Momo, but for the other scams that Jacqueline pulled.
That I need dopamine, I need oxytocin, I need love, I need care.
Well, credit card fraud.
And Yenny said that they were going to be the person who was going to give that to me.
Deception, played with my heart.
And then didn't, so I had to find it elsewhere.
It was incredibly, this was Momo.
I did not have the cat killed. I was very attached to Momo. That was my cat as well.
It was incredibly hard to deal with. I was also alone when I had to process that news, so.
I did not set a hitman out on the cat. That's a lot to say.
She saw me as a sugar daddy, and she saw herself as a wannabe Anna Nicole Smith. Unfortunately, neither of us are those things.
Could I plead the fifth on finding another sugar daddy?
Yet another lesson we learned about cohabitants living together and the rules of what not to do. No cars, no pets, no money exchanges.
No joint pets, no joint.
Exactly. But today we learned
timeshares.
a new one. Today, don't give access to your credit card to anyone that you don't want racking up charges for any purpose, even to visit a secondary lover in another state.
You know, the divorce rate in this country is still hovering we're around 50%. The living togethers who don't quite make it to the marriage place is a much greater number.
Yeah.
Living togethers don't stay together 70% of the time. Why in the world would you buy a pet together?
It's a risk.
Car together? A timeshare together?
True.
Or give somebody a credit card.
Yeah.
At the time that you do it, you're happy with them. But since at least 70% of the time you're going to go your own separate ways, at that time you're mad at each other.
And the lines get blurry.
And the lines get blurry, absolutely.
Case number 2024, Morgan versus Davis. All parties, please step forward.
Corey Morgan is suing dress designer Jacqueline Davis for party costs and a dress deposit.
Ms. Morgan, this is what this case is about in a nutshell. You were celebrating a birthday. When was your birthday?
March 24th.
And you always make a big deal, according to you, about your birthday. It's a very important day of the year for you and for everybody who knows you.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the way Sarah feels, actually. Me, I sort of like to forget birthdays now. I like it to run right by that day as undercovered as possible. Anyway, you celebrate your birthday with a big party.
Right.
And according to you, you get a spectacular dress for this party, invite everybody that you know and care about. How many people were you having for your birthday party?
It was going to be about 12 people.
Where was it going to be held?
It was going to be at the James Harden restaurant.
Who was going to be there?
My best friend from Chicago, my mom, my dad, just an intimate setting of family and friends.
Mom, dad, your best friend from Chicago. Who else?
Just family, cousins, aunt.
And you couldn't get the restaurant for that day, so you made it in April on a different day than your birthday.
Yes, I originally booked it in January 18th. The restaurant, it's a big deal, so yeah.
Whatever. It was postponed until what date?
Yes, ma'am, April 1st.
Okay. What about your best friend from Chicago? You told her not to come in because you didn't have a dress?
Well, I told him that I would be canceling the dinner because when she didn't deliver the dress, everything was already in black and silver.
Black and silver. You put on black pants, black top, and you put on the silver around your neck. It'd be ridiculous, Miss Morgan. You have to grow up a little.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Corey and Jacqueline.
Corey Morgan says dress designer Jacqueline Davis is responsible for party costs and a dress deposit. Jacqueline is countersuing, claiming Corey owes for travel costs.
And you ordered your dress from the defendant. You found her through a mutual friend because she makes wonderful clothes. The defendant also is a tax preparer, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So she's busy. So she makes clothes. She's a tax preparer in season. You made arrangements with her to make your dress, and she was going to make your dress at the cost of $300. According to you, you didn't get your dress in time. It was never fitted at all after your initial measurements were taken. Is that correct?
Yes.
And since you didn't have the dress for your dinner, you had a terrible birthday, you canceled your birthday, and you want her to pay for the dinner.
Yes. Just the build up.
That's Miss Morgan. How old are you?
I just made 35, so it was the build up leading to it.
So if you turn 35, I'm a lot older. Sarah's younger, and my other grandchildren, you know, were around that age. I have one that's close to your age. I cannot imagine any of my older grandchildren, or me, for instance, canceling an event because I didn't have just the right dress. I mean, it's not as if a bride is canceling her wedding because she didn't have a wedding dress to wear. Of course, if you want to get married badly enough, you put a sack over your head with a tie and You walk down the aisle, but you don't cancel the wedding. So you want her to pay for the deposit that you made on the dress.
Yeah, it was.
And another $1,000 or more because you didn't have a nice party.
So originally when I booked it, it was for April 1st. When I tried to rebook it because she told me at the last minute that she was not going to be able to do the dress, which was the week of. I had originally set up for her to do the dress so I could have something to wear. I purchased shoes, nails, everything.
I understand everything. She's not going to pay you for the party. You should have worn something else for the party. Believe me, your best friend from Chicago, your mother and your father would not have cared if you wore that dress or any other dress. You should not be out a penny.
I was out of penny.
Well, you were out $150. You gave her $150. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I gave it back to her. I sent her a refund.
Oh, you did send her a refund?
Yes.
Did you? Just a second. Up. When did you send her a refund, Miss Davis?
I sent her a refund on March 29th. She requested a refund on March 28th, and I sent it directly to her.
To her on March 29th?
Yes.
How did you send it, by check or?
She sent me the money via Cash App, and I returned it via Cash App.
Do you have verification of that?
Yes, I do.
And she kept that money?
Yes.
Is that correct, Miss Morgan?
Yes, ma'am.
That's just a yes.
Yes.
Well, what did you think you were taking that money for? You asked for a refund, she gave you a refund.
I gave her $150 and she sent me $105 back, but she sent it the week of my event. So
I don't care if it's the week of your event. Did you send her $105 or?
I did.
Why?
Because I was charged a fee with Cash App, and also there were additional items that were purchased that I told her about that I deducted from that.
You can't deduct anything from that. And you can't even deduct the fee from Cash App because what it cost her was more than $150 then to send it to you, right?
Right.
Right. So why should you send her less?
Because I previously explained to her that I needed to order stones. Those stones were ordered.
Oh, then you're going to have to eat those. You didn't have the dress in time. You didn't have the dress in time.
The dress wasn't done.
No, it wasn't done. Not even according to you was it done. She hadn't had a fitting on it. The problem is you gave her money, and you should have sent her exactly what it is that she sent you because you didn't fulfill your end of the contract. A day before the party is not time to say it's 95% ready. Okay. She has to give you $145.88, which is exactly what she received. Am I correct that that's what she said?
That is what she said.
$145.88? Okay. She doesn't pay you for your disappointment, for your sorrow, for your party costs, or anything else, just for my own information, because that's my judgment. Did you spend your birthday with your mother and father? That's either yes or no.
No, ma'am.
Who did you spend your birthday with?
My boyfriend.
Oh, was he invited to the other party?
The dinner, yes, but I had to cancel the dinner.
I'm just asking.
Yes.
You didn't have to cancel the dinner because you didn't have a dress. That's what I'm trying to get to you. You could have gone to your dinner in that dress. I know, it's silly, and it's a little bit immature also. What about your best friend from Chicago? You told her not to come in because you didn't have a dress?
Well, I told him that I would be canceling the dinner because I purchased shoes, my nails, everything was accustomed to the dress. So when she didn't deliver the dress, everything was already in black and silver. I did not have a chance to go look for anything because it was the week of.
Oh, yes, of course you did. Of course you did, black and silver. You put on black pants, black top, and you put on silver around your neck. We're done here. Don't be ridiculous, Miss Morgan. You have to grow up a little. You have to give her back her money. Don't disappoint people. I mean, I know it's busy. It's tax time, you said to her. I'm busy. I'm working on things for the Oscars. You can't overstretch yourself. I know that it's very entrepreneurial to try to do too much. But sometimes when you try to do too much, you disappoint somebody.
This court is adjourned.
I'm not happy about it just because I'd already given her a refund.
I'm happy with the decision. It was pretty much principle for me. She was very unprofessional.
And given from the beginning, I worked with her.
And she didn't respect my time, and she canceled on me at the last minute.
And she waited to the last minute and canceled the order. So
she canceled at the last minute because she didn't have the dress ready to begin with.
Everything was really on her, but she put it on me because she was unhappy with how she chose to deal with the whole situation.
We'll be getting another dress with my original person that I was going to go to.
Absolutely not.
But from now on, I definitely will be going with who I know.
Will not work with the plaintiff again.
So I remember seeing through COVID, a lot of wedding dress shops closing down and the stress of brides going for fittings and seeing their dress, picking their dress, and then the shop just closed right out from under them. I wonder if any of them canceled their wedding because they didn't have...
For living expenses, stolen property, and vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2049, Councilman versus Jorge Watson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Horath, this is your mother,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is your girlfriend.
My fiance, yes.
Is she divorced?
She's widowed.
Since when?
June 6th,
Of what year?
2022.
Well, let me understand this. Prior to you being a widow, you were involved with Mr. Horath. Were you divorced?
I was going through a divorce.
Okay. And then he passed away.
Yes.
Mr. Horath, in 2013, you were incarcerated. How long?
5 years.
And you have 2 little girls.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were incarcerated, were the children living with you
No.
prior to being incarcerated?
Yes.
They were living with you?
Yes.
When you went to prison, was there any reason the children didn't go with their mother?
She left him with my mother.
So your mother obtained custody of your children 9 years ago
Yes.
and raised them.
Yes.
You got out of prison when?
September 2017.
And when you got out of prison, your mother invited you to come and live in the house?
Yes.
In her house?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else lives in her house?
My grandmother.
Who I understand from these papers is suffering from
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. So your mother was taking care of her mother and your 2 daughters.
Yes.
So your fiance now, who looks as if she's expecting a child, was your mother's next door neighbor?
Yes.
And you became involved with her when?
End of October 2020, or 19, I'm sorry.
And when you became involved with her, you have 2 children.
Yes.
You invited her with your mother's permission to move in to your mother's house with her 2 children.
Yes, ma'am.
We did agree that she could move in and stay in the guest.
Had you been living in the house by yourself with the 2 girls?
Yes, I have.
How large a house is it?
It's pretty good, decent size. It was 1,980 square feet, now expanded out another 800 feet, so quite. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths.
How do you support yourself?
I own my own business. I'm a nurse. Due to the fact of taking care of my granddaughters and my parents at the time, I had to resign from Fort Irwin, working there because of couldn't commit to the hours. So because of that, I went ahead and got my own business of doing home infusions, and that started right before the pandemic. And so I work a lot.
Anybody help you take care before they moved in? Anybody help you take care of the girls and your mother?
No, it was me.
Now, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
And you?
Nursing student and mother?
So you don't work?
No.
How do you support yourself?
I was going to school and...
Well, supporting yourself doesn't go into school unless you were getting money for going to school. Were you getting money for going to school?
Yes.
From whom?
From financial aid.
How much?
Maybe like $800, $900 a month. And this was before I was living with Danny and Nancy.
And after you moved in with Danny and Nancy?
I was helping her take care of her mother, and her VA was paying me to take care of her.
She was getting the Veterans Aid and attendance. I gave her that extra money to help out with my mom and those expenses.
And then currently, I'm taking care of our young son we have together.
So you have a child together and expecting another one?
Yes.
So then you'll have 4 children, correct? Yes. And you will have 4 children?
I will have 4 children, yes.
Sounds as if your mother did some very nice things for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds as if Miss Castleman did some very nice things for you.
Yes.
Why do you think she's suing you?
Out of anger.
Mr. Horath, why would she be angry at either one of you?
Because we decided that we were going to go ahead off and do our own thing, and she was no longer included in being part of that.
Like what?
Well, being part of a family or a unit. Once my grandmother's health declined and she went to a facility, there was no more communication about anything that was going on around the house anymore.
I don't know what you mean by that. Your fiance's arrangement was that she was being paid by the VA to take care of your grandmother.
Yes.
And then your grandmother, according to you, had to go into a facility.
Yes.
Which means your fiance isn't getting any more payment from the VA.
Correct.
Now, you're working, you drive a truck.
Yes.
Were you contributing towards the running of the household?
Oh, of course, yes.
How much?
Whatever needed to be paid.
No. Tell me what you paid.
I paid the Edison, half the Edison.
Well, that's not a set amount.
I paid $300 a month.
Well, that's an amount. So you paid $300 a month towards the Con Edison.
Yes, ma'am.
What else did you pay?
We paid for the trash.
How much was the trash?
$50 a month.
What else?
I paid for the food.
For who?
For our family.
Well, for all of you or just for You, your fiance, and the 4 children?
And my grandmother, yes, and my grandmother, and Nancy, too.
Not for me.
Shh.
Speak. She would come over and have dinner with us quite often. And I would make her meals and send them to her.
What you're saying is, because I read when you said she would come over for dinner, there came a time when there were an awful lot of people living in the house, and your mother, because it was so crowded, moved into a trailer on the premises, and you moved into the master suite.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Say thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Now, did you pay for anything else that you're not telling me?
Yes, we paid for the internet.
Their internet.
Yes.
Shh. For your own internet?
Yes.
I'm talking about expenses for the house. I assume the mortgage was paid off. Is that what you wrote here?
Danny did pay for the property taxes.
Okay, well then, that was my next question, property taxes. Did you pay for any of that?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
It was $1,264 a year.
Anything else?
Remodeling expenses that we did to the home.
I know it was expanded, and it was expanded after you were there.
Yes.
Yes. And do you know how much the remodeling expenses were?
The additions were done before I came home, but everything else was added to when we were living there.
Like what?
The pellet stove had went out, so we bought a new one.
Oh, that's I'm not interested.
Okay, okay.
I'm not interested in that. I'm talking about regular. So let me get to my trusty computer. We have $300 a month for Con Ed. So I don't even have to do that. I could do 1, 2, 6, 4. Everybody knows me now. I'm a little challenged with regard to these things. Divided by 12 equals $105 a month. And $300 a month for Con Ed and $50 for trash is 5. So you paid in total the expenses that you told me, $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house. I'm just setting the stage for this. You paid $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house, and your mother moved out to live in a trailer so that you could be in the master suite with your fiance, a new baby, and one on the way. Those are the objective facts that I have.
Okay.
Now, so I asked you, because your mother is suing for a lot of stuff, and I don't understand why somebody would take this approach when she was nothing but good to both of you. You screwed up your life. She got stuck raising your 2 children, working full-time, and taking care of a sick mother. You, I know what you go to school, and you're a full-time mother, but that's very nice, but she's not your mother, she's not your grandmother, she's nobody to you. Mm-hmm. And she took you in and your 2 children. What do you think you did to make her so angry that she would sue you? I'm curious.
I honestly don't know.
Well, you started to tell me that you moved on because she ultimately gave you notice to leave.
We actually gave her notice we were leaving, and that's when all that started.
Okay. Did you also tell your mother that you wanted to buy the house?
Yes, I did.
From her?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that started the trouble. And your mother's response was?
Of course. She said, okay.
And what happened?
I went and applied for a loan. They told me that I did not meet the criteria for the loan. I said, okay, that's fine. What about a rent-to-own option to buy? And she said, okay. We tried to get a real estate agent to go ahead and write out the contract. At that point in time, she wanted to move one of her nurses onto the property, into the trailer that she was living in. I did not feel comfortable with a stranger living on our property. I don't know them. I don't want them around my children. I don't know who they are. And if I'm going to be buying a home, I wouldn't want to.
You're not buying anything. You were renting.
With the option to buy. I want to buy the home, and then when I go back to apply for the loan in a year, I was going to buy the home.
Maybe, maybe not. Mr. Horath, so far, you see, you have somebody who has done all things to make your life, which you screwed up a little bit, more comfortable. Takes you in, takes your girls in, takes your girlfriend in, takes your girlfriend's kids in, allows you to have more latitude and more freedom by moving herself out of her own home, which is totally paid off, into a trailer so that you could be more comfortable. And she said, you want to buy the house? Fine. You couldn't get a loan. Well, could I rent to buy? She says, okay. But she's still a working person, as opposed to your fiancé.
Caption, coming up.
You ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman claims her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, owe for living expenses and stolen property. Danny and Trinity say they always paid their share of the bills.
Okay, now, she's still a working person, and she said, I would like to move one of my nurses. She's not talking about moving in some sex offender into a trailer next to her grandchildren, who she's raised. So I wouldn't see what your problem is with that, but that's neither here nor there. So that started an acrimonious separation. I'm not going to rent the house because I'm not going to allow you to move somebody that I don't know. I'm not even going to meet them. Somebody that I don't know into the trailer. Where are you living now?
We have our own home now.
Where?
Because we didn't agree with, we didn't want to live with her nurse, so we went.
Just a second. I said, the question is, where is your own home?
In Hellendale.
Is that where she lives?
Near.
How near?
10 miles up the road.
And when did you move there?
July 14th.
How big a house?
It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
Who owns the house?
We're renting.
And how much are you paying in rent?
$2,500.
So you got a smaller house at 5 times what you were paying her. Is that what I'm hearing? You paid $455 monthly to your mother.
We also paid her van payment, but we
What?
also used the van. Her van payment, it was $900 a month.
Did you use the van?
Yes.
Oh, good. Then you,
well,
good.
We used it to also take her mother to.
Did you use the van?
Yes.
For you and your children and his children?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I want to know if she's right down the road and she was good to you for a decade, why is she not included with your family anymore?
She chose not to be.
Really?
Yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or family functions or church functions, she would never come.
Well, you say never. You just moved out a month ago.
This is prior to us moving out. We haven't talked to her since we moved.
You mean prior to you moving out, you would invite her?
Oh, yeah.
And what you said was, could you read that back? She's working all the time? Is that, I just want to know if that's what he said.
He said, yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or church functions, she would never come.
Okay. Unpaid living expenses, electric bill. All right, let's get to the electric bill. He said he paid $300 a month. What does he owe for the electric bill and for what months?
I was on a level pay plan for every month, and it went up higher. The rates have increased for in the past year. So that was $900. It was $1,800, the bill that came out. So it actually increased over the last year, and I have copies of that. So I asked for them to pay half.
Did they ever pay the extra money?
No.
Okay. And they continued to live there?
That just came up in May, yes.
Okay, well, then I'm not interested in that. Go ahead.
And
what else? What other living expenses?
Well, the other electric bill, they were still there. They didn't pay for that one.
Which one?
The one from June to July.
Were you there in June, July?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence that I did pay.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Paid $3, not the whole amount.
No, I did pay.
Just let me see that you paid it.
Danny produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
June 19th, $600.
That was not for this electric bill. It was for...
No, that was for Edison.
It says Con Edison.
Yes.
There was another bill that still needed, it was like $723.
I don't care.
That he owed me
I
for.
don't care. He paid $600 in June of 2022. You have vet bills here and personal items taken without permission. And the personal items taken without permission, you took some of her things. What did you take that didn't belong to you?
Nothing.
Well, you acknowledged that you did. You acknowledged that either you or your fiancé took things that didn't belong to you. You said you returned them, but you took them.
They were packed by other family members that were helping us pack.
And? So they were taken without her permission?
Yes.
By your agents, by people who were helping you, so they were your agents. What was taken?
I guess there was a gun that
Not guess, I don't want to hear guess.
There was a gun that was packed.
Okay. Did you get the gun back?
I got the gun back next day.
It was returned, yes.
What else?
That's as far as I know.
What else was missing?
The ammo.
The ammunition for the gun.
I don't have any ammunition.
I wouldn't have a gun without ammo.
Well, Go and look for it. What else?
KitchenAid machine.
What is that?
A KitchenAid for mixing and making. I bought that for my mom. They took that.
That was given to us by my grandmother because she can no longer bake, or actually given to her because she bakes.
And she even, for Mother's Day, Nancy brought, her and Granny, her mother, Nancy brought me the attachment. It makes pasta for the KitchenAid for Mother's Day. So she was aware that her mother gave me, when she moved to the facility, that she gave me the
Oh, she moved to a facility, she can't make a gift. If she's moving to a facility because she has Alzheimer's, she can't make a gift.
I have power of attorney over her.
Shh. Now, if what you're telling me is that you did take it and that the plaintiff sort of ratified that by buying you an attachment for it for Mother's Day, that I'll ask her about. Now, Ms. Castleman, listen to me very carefully. Did you buy Miss Watson around Mother's Day a pasta attachment for the KitchenAid?
Yes, ma'am, I did. For my mom. With my mom.
I don't...
Because they were supposed to be cooking together.
No. No. You bought an attachment for it, and if you buy an attachment, that was a gift, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made the gift, you handed the gift to whom?
To Trinity.
Right. So even if your mother didn't have the mental capacity, you could have argued, to make a gift, and it was yours, you ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
Okay.
Anything else? Vet bill. Now we'll get to the vet bill. Okay. You had to go to the emergency room when and for what, Ms. Castleman?
I was having issues with my stomach. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis and had to go to the
I can imagine. When?
That was in June, beginning of June.
June of this year. Who took you to the emergency room?
I had to take an Uber. I couldn't drive.
Who was home?
Trinity and her family.
And her family. Mm-hmm. And when you went to the emergency room, where was the van?
The van was at the home.
Why didn't she take you to the emergency room?
She said she couldn't do that. She said that she was too busy and stressed out.
Is that right?
I was dealing, my children's father just passed away that day.
And I was there with
Just a second. You were separated from him. Why couldn't you take her to the emergency room?
Because my children just found out that their dad passed away.
That
So
was
I
the
was
day
dealing with
before.
their emotions.
Just a second. I'm just trying to figure out why you couldn't take her to the emergency room. You've been living with your mother for a while now, since you got out of jail. How many times has your mother been to the emergency room?
Quite a few.
How many?
More than 10 that I know of.
And did you take her to the emergency room since you've been home?
I
from
have
jail?
before, yes.
How many times did you take her?
2 to 3 times, at least.
When was the last time you took her?
Maybe a year ago.
And what was wrong then?
Her sciatic nerve.
Did you wait with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, because that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Excuse me a second.
Judy produces a fly swatter, then swats a fly with it.
Don't write to me if you're a fly lover. I don't care.
Caption, coming up.
You did absolutely nothing wrong. If I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman has accused her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, of taking advantage of her kindness. Danny and Trinity claim Nancy became upset when they stopped doing her favors.
Well, Miss Watson, I know that you have an excuse. If it were me and I had been living off somebody else for years, I would have put my kids in the van and say, we have to take Grandma to the emergency room. That would just be me. And deal with my children in the van 5 minutes later.
And I would have if I wasn't dealing with my children at the time, and she was aware of that. I think she even took a Lyft or an Uber. She let me know it was okay.
I'm just telling you. I'm trying to get some sympathy going for the two of you. I'm not getting any sympathy going for the two of you. Did she ask you to watch her dog?
No, she, like normal, I have a dog too on the property, and it was a mutual agreement that anytime one of us were gone, we would always make sure the dog went out to use the restroom. But the day her dog had an injury, I wasn't home.
Where were you?
Gymnastics competition.
It just happened at night.
When was your dog injured?
On the day that I went to the ER. I asked her before, I said, I have to go, my lift is here, and can you feed my dogs? And because they're in their trailer still, and Molly's still on the bed, and I didn't want him jumping down, and can you take him out? I don't know when I'll be back. The Uber was there, or the Lyft was there, and I left. And when I came back home, it was about 5:30 in the morning. I noticed the dogs were in there, and that Asher was cut up. He had big old laceration.
Did you know what happened? Could you figure out what happened?
No, I think I know now they it was probably under their trailer while he was out, because she did say that she took him out, but she forgot to feed them, and she was home.
That night I was home, yeah.
Did you see her dog injured?
No.
Did you feed her dog that day?
No, I did forget to feed the dogs. I took her small dog, Tamale, off the bed, and I had them go out, and then I put them right back in, and I went back on to the house.
And you forgot to feed them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. But when you went in there, the dog was not injured?
No, he was not.
Okay. The last part of this, and then I'm actually finished. Money owed for unpaid living expenses. Anything other than what we have discussed?
They're supposed to pay rent.
Starting when?
It was supposed to initially have been in November for January of 2022, because since my mom had to go, away because she couldn't take care of her anymore, I had to do what I have to do.
You mean after she stopped watching your mother?
Mm-hmm. That's when I mostly enforced it. But there are text messages that they agreed to pay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
I understand, Mr. Horath and Miss Watson, that the agreement was that you would live there paying certain expenses but not rent, as long as you, Miss Watson, or Mr. Horath, when you were home, would take care of her mother so that she could work.
Yes.
Yes.
And that stopped at a particular point.
Yes, in May.
That stopped in May.
Yes.
Okay.
Judy reviews a printout of a text exchange.
Well, it does seem that there were arguments back and forth about these expenses, but never wholly an understanding that that was going to happen.
Your Honor, I had several conversations with my son while he's truck driving. He didn't really talk to her particularly, because I think she had a lot of influence on that. He would have done the
Whether
right
he did or whether he did, this comes from Danny himself. He says, okay, check this out. I'll call the state inspectors for the septic room additions in the bathroom that needs permits first.
She did.
Just a second. What kind of thing is that? How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
37.
How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
28.
And that's 2 in addition to this current engagement.
No, then it would just be 1.
And you?
Just 1.
Well, then you're not married, so you've each been married once before.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to look at your mother. Maybe in the next couple of years, maybe, she will be here, and maybe she won't. I'm sure when you married the first time, you expected that to be forever because you made a couple of children, right?
Yes.
I hope you'll be able to see that face for a very long time, but she had another husband before you. You're only going to have one mother. And your mother was really good to you, and really good to a stranger and her children. And she didn't invite them in and say, well, I'm going to apply for some assistance because no, she worked all the time. According to you, she chose to work. She chose to work all the time instead of going to church with you. You have no idea how ridiculous that sounds. You have no idea how ridiculous it sounds to me that Miss Watson says to me, I have children. I can't work. Well, she had 2 children, yours. And she worked and had your 2 children that she had to take care of. And she's much older than Miss Watson. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you have a work ethic, you have a work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic, you don't have a work ethic. But right now, she took care of you since you got out of jail. That's a long time. And for you to cut her off from yourself and her grandchildren is pretty outrageous to me. But you're 37 years old, and you have 4 children. Now 6, because they don't have a father anymore, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I don't know what you were doing with all your extra money, but to your mother you were paying $400 a month for a 5-bedroom house, and now you're paying $2,500 a month rent in a 3-bedroom house, and I assume that that's plus trash, Con Edison, and internet, and everything else that goes along with the house. So I don't know who's paying for that, unless you were just stashing away money. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't even want to go into it. Anyway, Ms. Castleman, it's not worth it. You did the right thing with him. You took him in. You did absolutely nothing wrong. But you didn't have a contract with him, and you didn't have a contract with her. And I can't enforce giving you money when there was no enforceable contract. But if I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Nancy, then Danny, and Trinity.
I'm grateful for the things that she did say so they can understand where I'm coming from.
She has no control. She gets upset and wants to see revenge in any way she can.
Those words are not from him. I know my son.
We had a good relationship before all of this transpired.
They don't get it.
Well, I hope that we can all eventually get back to that point for the sake of the kids.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I don't think that there's a legal lesson there to learn, Sarah.
I know, it's just so unfortunate because I feel for the plaintiff. As a grandmother, as a mother, you try and do the right thing, and just to feel so taken advantage of. And I didn't hear a good reason. I was waiting the whole time to hear a good reason for why she was this terrible person that they had to move away from, but it never came.
Well, the only thing that I came up with was that she agreed to let them rent the house, rent to buy.
Yes.
Because they couldn't buy the house. They didn't have sufficient funds. But there was a condition. Now, she was living in a...
Lost work.
Judy enters.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Kevin.
Case number 2006, Nelson versus Mata.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Nelson, this is your sister.
Yes.
How old are you?
I am 42, 43, almost 44.
Oh, so are you the only two sisters?
We have some half-sisters, but yes.
But you're the only two full biological sisters. Now, there came a time, Miss Mata, that you moved into your sister's home.
Yes.
Is this a home that you own?
Yes, we built it.
In what year did you move into her home?
That would have been 2018.
Who else lives in the house from your family?
My disabled mother, my husband, and my child.
So your mother lives there?
Yes, I take care of my mom.
Tell me why you moved into your sister's basement, Miss Mata.
In 2015, my oldest son was in a tornado and suffered a severe brain injury. So when my sister Tiffany and her husband were looking for new houses, they offered to build an apartment in their basement so that we could live with them and get out of our mobile home. So when they built this house, it was built with the intention of us living in the basement.
Is that correct?
Yes, but for a year, because I do take care of my disabled mother, and the intention was for her to be in the basement eventually so that she doesn't have to use stairs.
Was the original agreement with your sister that it would not be a permanent move, but one that would last for about a year?
It was agreed that it was not a permanent. There was not a date set, though.
Okay, but it was agreed it was not a permanent, and you did not have a written lease?
Yes, we did. We do have a lease.
You did? I'd like to see it.
We had a month-to-month lease that I have as well. This is the current lease that subsides the other lease.
Okay, initially a month-to-month lease, and what month and year did you have her sign?
I have it right here. It's dated July 14th, 2018.
So this is a 6-month lease that ended January 31st.
Correct.
The rent was $800 a month?
Yes.
So this last lease was for your sister, her husband, and 2 children?
Correct.
I only ask that question because if my reading of your complaint was correct, you say that she moved her husband in without your consent.
So when we first agreed to let her move in 2018, she was divorcing, and the agreement was that her and her 2 sons could move into the home. He had nowhere to go, and she wanted him to move in. So because
in what year was that?
That was still 2018.
So that was still 2018?
Yeah, so we let, let him live there.
And since then, you've signed different leases with her, with him on the property?
Correct.
Okay, so then you acquiesced to it. When you were in the apartment, did you have pets?
I did,
How many pets did you have?
4 dogs. But then subsequently, some had passed away, so at the end, we only had 2 dogs.
Okay, well, at the signing of this lease, you had 6 pets, consisting of cats, dogs, and no other pets being allowed.
Correct.
And you agreed, regardless of ownership of the pets, agreed to restore the property to its original condition at your expense when you leave. Okay, good, because that's also part of what this is about, actually. Most of what this is about.
Your Honor, they had 3 pets upon move out. They had just gotten a puppy, so they did have 3 pets and 2 cats upon move out.
Doesn't matter. Anybody who has 6 pets, after 3 years, the carpet needs to be replaced.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your sister began to move out when? In what month?
She moved out on the 1st of February, 2022.
Pursuant to your agreement?
Correct.
And it is your claim that she left the premises in condition that required you to spend close to $10,000 to put it back into shape.
$6,500.
Okay.
For the basement damages.
I'd like to see photographs of what it looked like because we know it was brand new when you moved in because the house was just
Those are
built.
all...
So we know that it's new.
Judy flips through photos.
I also have photographs that I took the day we moved out.
Okay. I'm going to give you these and then I'm going to look at yours.
Okay.
Photos of a stained carpet.
Okay, so there's no question you have to replace the carpeting.
Right.
You understand that. Did you replace the carpeting?
No, I had not had any contact from her.
Do you have the bill for the carpeting?
I replaced one room already, and I have that, and then I have the estimate to replace the other carpet.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Tiffany hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
And that's the main thing that I see in the apartment that has to be done from these photographs. Okay, did you leave a lot of food in the refrigerator and all kinds of stuff in the refrigerator?
No, so what happened was the refrigerator...
Just the answer is either yes or no. Did you leave a whole lot of stuff in the refrigerator?
No.
Anything in the freezer?
No, there was no freezer.
And cabinets, did you leave anything in the I'm just looking because there's a picture here of a whole bunch of food.
Right. I hadn't finished moving out.
My question,
but yes, there was
my
there.
question is, you were supposed to be out by February 1st. On February 1st, was there food in the house?
Yes.
Okay, and it should have been moved. Whether you moved out yet or not, you were supposed to be out by February 1st. Okay, I'd like to see those.
Judy examines an estimate totaling $3,400.
So you replaced the carpet in what room?
One of the bedrooms, so my mom could move down there so she could not use stairs.
Okay. Sarah, add these two figures and have them for me, please. And I don't know what this is a photograph of.
So the bags that were left in the home, there was ice cream that was left in those bags, and it had leaked on my flooring, and we moved it outside. And that is the rotted food from the bags.
Okay, do you know how that happened?
I don't. I haven't seen that.
Okay. May I see photographs, please, that you took on the day you moved out?
Yes.
I have that total, Judge. $4,129.
4,121?
29.
29.
And 21 cents.
Thank you.
Judy holds up a photo.
Is this after the carpet was taken out?
Yes.
Kevin, can I please see the photographs that she took?
Judy flips through photos of worn floors and carpets.
Actually, they're pretty much the same. Not terrible. A lot of it is ordinary wear and tear, except for the carpet. So that's $4,129. The only other thing that I'm questioning is that I saw these rocks. And I want somebody to explain these rocks to me.
So because of the water level, if you go out the downstairs patio, there's rocks there to prevent the yard from sliding.
Getting wet.
So some of the rocks were moved. They're supposed to all go in a line, and they go down and over. So we have to pay a landscaper to come out and basically redo that.
Well, how did that happen? Do you know?
They're pretty heavy rocks, so...
I don't know. Do you know? Did you move the rocks?
No, you would need like a skid loader to move those rocks. There's no physical way to move those.
Where do you live?
With one person.
I live in far west Utah, farm country.
Looks like there's water comes down through here.
Yes, we live across the street from a pond as well.
Well, you don't know how that happens. Now, you have, in addition to your claim, which is for damage, you feel it's necessary to go into these allegations of harassment by your sister?
I honestly just want to be done with her and not get threatening text messages and stuff on social media.
No chance of a reconciliation. You
Not
lived
on my
together
end.
for a while.
I've blocked her from
For a long time.
Yeah.
Miss Mehta, your sister was there at a time when you needed her.
Yes.
You think that there's any potential for the two of you to sort of restore some kind of working relationship? Are you the only two?
No. This
No.
is the funeral of our relationship.
All right, not my job. That's a job for another professional. Okay, you have a counterclaim.
Yes.
And your counterclaim, just as she's not going into the harassment, I'm not going into anything that involves the harassment. It is your claim that you left certain furniture behind. Well, why wasn't your furniture out on the 1st? Your lease expired at the end of the month in January.
It did. And I did let them know that I was not done.
Well, that's not a reason. That's not a reason to break your contract. Only two people can break a contract, Miss Mehta. The two people are the same two people that signed it. You signed a contract that said you would be out on a certain date. You weren't out on a certain date. The fact that you notified her that you're changing the terms of the contract unless she agreed to it, then you should have had your stuff out by the 31st. Why didn't you?
Because she had made it very difficult during my moving process. There was a lot of, like I said, harassment and stuff that happened during that moving process. She called the police on the people that were helping me. She made it very difficult to get it done. There was no way that I could get it done on that day.
Let's get back to call the police.
Brandy pouts.
And later today,
after Mr. Martinez got into the picture, he was going to pay me not to talk to Sherry any longer.
So you had a discussion with him that all of her bills he was going to take care of?
Many discussions, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and?
I never got a dime.
Okay, well, what is the harassment?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Tiffany and Brandy.
Tiffany Nelson claims her sister, Brandy Maida, owes for property damage after living in her basement. Brandy is countersuing for the return of her belongings.
Who did you have moving you?
I had my best friend, Brittany, was helping me.
Does Brittany and your sister have any negative history?
They do.
Okay. Well, if they have any negative history, why would you have her come into the house?
Because she doesn't have any access to Tiffany at that point. There was no reason for them to talk. They wouldn't be even associating.
You know, if I knew that there were issues between my landlord and a particular person, especially if my landlord was my sister who let me move into her house, just from a question of using my brain, I wouldn't bring somebody that had been on the outs with them. If they didn't like them, that's one thing. You know, I'm really not crazy about your friend Brittany. That's one thing. But if you knew that there was an active, aggressive feeling against one or the other, should have had somebody else move. So why didn't you get your stuff out?
Well, so I didn't think that it was as serious as that. They are related.
If they're related and don't like each other, or the plaintiff doesn't like her, then that's even worse. Go ahead.
Yeah, so she was my only help. I didn't have anybody to help me at that time. So.
Then start doing it sooner. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was the only reason.
Miss Maida, where was your husband?
He was working. We were working during this whole time.
Well, that's okay. I've moved and worked. I used to move every time I needed a paint job. I would pack up and move, and I constantly worked. I've worked for 58 years. So that's not a reason. You pack in the evening. You go down after work, you get newspaper from the grocery store, and you get old cartons, and you wrap up the dishes and the cartons, and you manage to get out when you're supposed to get out. And she's not the only one who can help you. Maybe your husband has friends. If he doesn't have friends, I don't know why not. In any event, that was not a smart thing for you to bring your witness. Furniture. What furniture did you leave?
I left patio set on the patio. It was all outside furniture.
Patio set.
You're on
just a second.
A lawnmower.
Okay.
Outside bench that had storage and stuff.
Yeah.
Fire pit and lawn chairs.
Okay. And when did you buy the lawn chairs?
It would have been 2018.
Okay. And how much did you pay for each one?
They were $245 for the chaise lounges and $159 for the pool dining chairs.
Okay. Are those chairs at your home?
Yes.
May I see them?
Yes. There's 4 lawn chairs. There was never the long
chair.
chair.
Let me see what's in the home.
I also had a cooler.
Just a second. Don't bother me about a cooler.
A photo of a lawn chair.
Are the lawn chairs still there?
Yes.
Great. You can go get them.
Okay.
With a marshal, not with her. What about the fire pit?
Still there.
You can pick up the fire pit. What about the lawnmower?
Still there.
Patio set?
Still there.
They have painted that purple.
Painted back. Where are you living now?
I have a house.
Who are you living there with?
With my husband and my sister-in-law.
She's living with you? She's paying, it's not an answer, yes.
Yes.
She's paying you rent?
No.
Why not?
My husband's mother, their mother passed away, and she needed to be closer to family, so she's just living with us as family.
Okay, you're going to get all the property back that you say you left there. And you can do that within 5 days on notice to the plaintiff with a marshal. Just give him a copy of the order that will give you inside.
Okay.
With regard to the renovation of the house, she has to put the house in reasonable condition. Most of these other pictures demonstrate some wear and tear that you would have to do. Painting and plastering after 3.5 years, but the carpeting had to be replaced, $4,129. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Tiffany, then Brandy.
I'm happy with her decision. I just wanted to fix my basement and move on with my life.
I mean, it is what it is. There's nothing to do. You know, I think we were both at fault.
Go back home, fix my house, and honestly have nothing to do with her again.
If she had come and talked to me like a normal person, we could have figured this out without this.
No, I'm completely done.
I would like to not be inappropriate, but she's just not a good person.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I think that the two sisters had the best of intentions. Didn't you get that feeling?
I did. From moving in and knowing you have a designated place at a time of need, that she was going to design the basement for you to live in, although not permanently, I thought it was going to go in a good direction.
And I'm sure that the plaintiff's mother, who lives with her, is sad that she doesn't get to see her other daughter probably as frequently as she would like, because they lived together in the same home, evidently, for a very long time.
Yeah.
Very bad. There's always collateral damage when people don't get along.
True.
Kevin.
Case number 2039, Mormon versus Strauss. All party, please step forward.
Derek Mormon is suing his former friend, Sherry Strauss, for car repairs and harassment.
Mr. Mormon, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
A casual friend, a romantic friend?
Maybe both, you know, a casual romantic friend.
How long do you know her?
14 years at least, probably closer to 15, yeah.
Were you ever together as a couple?
No, ma'am.
And it is your claim that because she was in financial trouble, you extended a loan to her to fix her car.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this case is about. You also say she harassed you, but most of this case is about the loans to fix her car. Ms. Strauss says that you did, in fact, work on her car, but you caused more damage to it than it originally had. And she is counterclaiming for car repairs that she has to make because of work that you did on the car. Who is this person?
My fiance.
Okay, he's not a mechanic.
No.
And who is the woman?
She is the property manager of the motel that I'm living in.
So you don't have a mechanic to testify today to anything?
No, I do have.
The answer is no.
No, but I do have an estimate.
I don't care about an estimate. Okay, so I would like you to tell me, Ms. Strauss, when did you start to have trouble with your car?
March 2nd of 2022.
And where were you living at the time?
I had just moved into the motel.
Had you been spending any time with Mr. Mormon?
Previous to that, no.
Previous to March of 2022?
That's correct.
After March of 2022, did you spend any time with Mr. Mormon?
I did, yes.
Did you stay at his home?
I went there occasionally, yes.
No, but I'm asking you, did you stay over at his home?
Yes.
Okay. And when you started to have trouble with the car in March, when you hadn't been staying at Mr. Mormon's house, did you call him and let him know you were having trouble with your car?
I did as a friend, yes.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I just told him I dropped my son off at his taekwondo, and we were trying to leave, and my car was not working.
And what did he say to you?
That he will come and help me.
And help you?
Yeah.
That was on March 2nd?
That was on March 2nd, yes.
And did he come to the motel where you were staying?
No, he did not.
Well, how did he come and help you with the car?
Because my car was at my son's taekwondo, so he went there.
He came to where you were? And did he take your car someplace?
Not on that day, no.
What did he do on that day?
On that day, he took me and my son home.
So that was March 2nd. Keep going. March 2nd, March 3rd.
And then on March 3rd, we ended up having my car taken over to O'Reilly's. Well, we got a battery.
How much was it?
It was $167.
Who paid for it?
I did.
So then you were driving it again? It's not, yes.
Correct.
Okay. And when was the next time there was difficulty with the car?
Then the next time was March 7th. It died again.
So on March 7th, the car died again? And what did you do?
Then on March 7th, I called him and told him that something's wrong with my car again. Now it's not starting again.
Okay. And tell me why you called him.
Because as a good friend, like I said, we've been friends for 15 years. As it is, I don't ask anybody for help. I usually try to do everything on my own. But,
Okay, so you called him and said the car died again?
Yep, but he had made it known that he was knowledgeable about cars, so I figured that maybe he would know what was going on.
You know who else is knowledgeable? Mechanics.
Caption, coming up.
You want to tell me what the additional harassment is?
He showed up at my motel threatening.
What did he want?
When I had talked to him before, when he thought that David and I was not together anymore, he said, "Oh, it's not about the money." He goes, "I just want you."
Derek rolls his eyes. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Derek and Sherry.
Derek Mormon says his former friend, Sherry Strauss, owes for car repairs. Sherry is countersuing, claiming Derek damaged her car, trying to fix it.
Okay, so on the 7th, you called him again and said, I'm having trouble. What did he do?
Then on the 7th, I had to go to work, so I had another friend take me to work. He came and picked me up from work, and we took my car back over to O'Reilly's, took the battery out, had them test it. The battery had been drained. Figured it was the alternator, got the alternator. He put the alternator in.
Who paid for all of these repairs? That's what it's about. That's
I
what
paid
this case
for
is.
them.
So what is he suing for?
Because later on, my brakes and rotors went out and I got a flat tire. So at that time, yes, I did call him and let him know.
On what date was that?
That was on April 16th of 2022.
Okay. Well, right now it's gone on the fritz on the 2nd, the 7th, and April 16th. So that's a lot of aggravation. So on April 16th fiasco with the car and the repairs, how much was that?
$234.
Who paid for that?
He said that he would pay for it. He originally told me that his mechanic would allow me to make payments. And when we went to go pick it up on April 22nd, found out that that was not the case.
Okay, so he wasn't going to allow you to make payments,
No.
which mechanics usually don't. So how much was the bill?
So the bill was $567.91.
And he paid for that because they wouldn't let you make payments?
He paid for that because he knew I was...
No,
gonna have
not
to
he
bond.
knew. You were originally going to pay for that and make payments.
Yeah, I was
Just
gonna
a
make
second.
payments.
You were originally going to pay for it and make payments. You found out that you couldn't make payments, so he said, fine, I will make the full payment to the mechanic.
Yeah.
But it was always your intention to pay for the repairs of the car, only you wanted to pay for it in a slower fashion.
Right, I was going to make the payments to the mechanic, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, did you pay him back any of the $567?
I gave him $300 to help him with rent, but
Just a second. Tell me when you gave him $300 for rent.
I gave him the $300 on April 29th.
That was after you picked up the car.
Mm-hmm.
Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she give you $300 for rent?
No, Your Honor, I don't need anybody to help me pay my rent.
Do you have any proof that you gave him $300 for rent, a withdrawal from a bank, or anything?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Okay, so far you owe $567. Is that what you paid for her in April?
No, Your Honor, I paid $674.76.
May I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Derek hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Yeah, April 18th. $674. Would you show this to Ms. Strauss? Okay. Mr. Mormon?
Yes, Your Honor.
There subsequently came a time, which I think probably was a more social issue than anything else, when the defendant advised...
I have a different one that shows
May I
the receipt right there.
May I
that
see
shows
it?
The $567.91.
Sherry hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Well, I actually am not understanding this. He paid for this with his Visa card. Is that right?
That's correct.
Could you explain this to me? This is your Visa card. This is the same invoice. One of them is for $567.91, and the one that you gave me, the same invoice number, is $674.76. Sarah, would you do me a favor, please?
Sure.
Would you add up?
From both or just the top one?
Well, let's start with just the top one, for which there is a Visa receipt.
Judy hands the invoices to Sarah.
So I gather that all this became problematic when you started to see a serious boyfriend. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, after March, you said you stayed occasionally at Mr. Mormon's. When you stayed at Mr. Mormon's, was that more of a social, I mean, was it a more intimate relationship than just social friends? This was after March, after you were in the motel.
We're kind of like friends with, benefits in a way, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right, and then you found someone new, and according to him, you advised him that you had somebody new, and now he wants the money for the car, which you were going to pay anyway. You were going to
Originally,
pay
I
it.
figured it was a friend helping a friend. I didn't think of it as a loan.
No. It wasn't. Even you say, Ms. Strauss, it was your intention to pay this bill for your car as you would pay the other bills for your car. However, when you got there, you found you couldn't make time payments. So he said, well, you need a car. I'll lay it out up front. But it was always your intention to pay for your own car. Do we have a...
That is the correct number. And then at the bottom, that totals. And then the additional to bring you to 567 is the tax.
Now, Now, so the next part of your case is about harassment. By whom and for what?
Your Honor, after Mr. Martinez got into the picture.
That's this gentleman.
Yes, ma'am. He was a man of his word, and he was going to pay me not to talk to Sherry any longer, which I didn't.
Okay, so you had a discussion with him that all of her bills he was going to take care of?
Many discussions, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And?
I never got a dime.
Okay, well, what is the harassment?
Text messages, my witness here, Miss Montoya.
No, just a second.
Okay.
Text messages what?
Just saying, hey, leave her alone, which is fine.
Okay, that's all right. That's not harassment.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, fine.
But it was, hey, I'm going to pay you. I'm a man of my word.
Okay, well, that you're not
Where's my
suing him,
money?
so who cares about that?
Yeah.
She owes you $567. That's what you put on your visa. Now, let's get to your money owed for car repairs and harassment. Okay. Now, you don't have a mechanic here, so what your claim is that whatever he did to the car, he didn't do well, so you had to take the car, or you're going to have to take the car to another mechanic. I don't care. You would plan to fix this car yourself. The problem was with payments. If you had to make additional repairs to the car, that's not his problem. Okay, now you want to tell me what the additional harassment is?
Well, that's why I have my two witnesses here. He spent a lot of time calling me names. He's called my fiance names. He showed up at my motel threatening and stuff like that. So
What did he want?
he wanted his money, but at one point in time,
Now he's got it. I don't need to speak to you.
no, but
Now he's got his money.
when I had talked to him before, when he thought that David and I was not together anymore, he said, oh, it's not about the money. He goes, I just want you. He's got several messages from me, how he loves me, he wants to be with me, and all this and that.
Yeah, but you don't love him and you don't want to be with him, so now you have to pay him for your car repairs, $567.
Yeah.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
Well-
We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Derek, then Sherry.
Hey, justice was served, and that's all that matters.
It was about because he didn't have me. I went with somebody else, and I wasn't with him.
She was a friend, and I tried to help her out.
We've been friends for a long time, so I told him we would be, that I wanted to be his friend.
I ain't gonna help, I can tell you that.
I want to continue the friendship, and he didn't want that.
I know, never again on her, no.
Time to find another mechanic.
Judy
employer, Christopher Ricks, for unpaid wages and vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It was said like that, but we did not lose a
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed in your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. In any event, you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater, among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending in a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay, and you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I did not. I just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay, so you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the 17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close.
That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
what were you supposed to do?
And run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on, so anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do?
Yes, ma'am.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up paying
And just
us.
a second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we
Mr.
opened.
Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a bar.
For how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday, June 25th.
So it would be a fair statement that certain days you saw him between the 16th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him. for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for him that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
And what do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him. Anything that he was calling me over to do, I was doing.
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
No, I can tell
That's
you
a little
exactly.
too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
he
true,
started
Your Honor.
working.
Don't speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20s?
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. That's incorrect. And that was June 19th?
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, et cetera, and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
You mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open, close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, et cetera.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
No, not
just the
painting,
theater. Just the theater.
Just in the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater, and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, there was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking
18.
about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours. So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Caption coming up.
There was no actual documentation, like we did not have a clock in, clock out, but the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
It's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Noah, Harland, and Christopher.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay, how much were you paid, Mr. Joyner? Because part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting, that the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of
Yes, ma'am.
him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you, you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose, how much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr.
It's 11 in Arkansas.
Would be $17 an hour.
And he made $17 an hour.
Correct, for 12 hours at $200.
But there was no
Those
actual.
hours are not
Those
correct,
were there was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data. We
Just
have
a
no
second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want
Of
the
the
money.
theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay, and this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an alcohol, if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agree.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
For that stuff.
So you signed the
but
papers.
During that, after we signed that, we noticed Chris was still giving out free alcohol to people, pouring it, wasn't even checking people's IDs. So I called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris and stuff like that in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
We actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And
it was completely vacant. And
at the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
Correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks, or he you, about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater, that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol, and that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
just a second.
Instance.
Just
no, ma'am.
Caption, coming up.
How many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Whitney grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Noah, Harlan, and Christopher.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting?
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had
no... The reason why he was asking us to paint because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask Noah to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call alcohol until July 5th, you said, so you were no longer working for him in the theater. So it didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The ABC report was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them, and there's no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage.
Yes,
after the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was
so
during. It was during.
What?
It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that I'm not
sympathetic. It wasn't just me that filed the report with the ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also jobless?
Filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't have reported it at all.
No, I'm trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
my motive. I have no motive. I am just owed.
Don't try to speak over me. Don't try to speak over me. That doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed a thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. They conducted an investigation as a result of the calls. All I have to ask you is this. Do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've had multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th, 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes.
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just
7 days.
23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you worked weekends?
Yes.
It's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all
sorry,
the
I
hours?
have anxiety, Your Honor. I
Let
just
me
need
ask
to be
my